their game. That's why I got same-day coverage through Ethos. There was no paperwork, no waiting around, and no medical exam. I just answered a few health questions online, and Ethos set me up with a $3 million policy for about $2 a day. Go to checkethos.com and get it done today. That's CHECKETHOS.com. Checkethos.com. Sample rates is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
Getting your guaranteed maximum refund with TaxSlayer feels like discovering a refund tree has grown in your backyard.
I'm the refund tree.
Sawing off its branches.
Hey.
Feeding them through a wood chipper.
My branches! My beautiful branches!
And dancing in its refund rain. Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
A very good Monday morning to you in the Music City. This is RKW. Kicking off a brand new week on 104.5 The Zone. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. The first weekend without football came and went. And no, the Pro Bowl is definitely not football, but we survived with takeaways from the Senior Bowl with new buzz around the number one overall pick, courtesy of ESPN.com. We'll dive into all of that and more with the Senior Bowl's Jim Nagy coming up at 8:20. Tennessee with 7 scholarship players takes down Florida. It was such a big deal. Ramon Foster was in the building.
Had to show up.
In Knoxville on Saturday afternoon. David Cobb of CBS Sports discusses that, and it's all the college hoops headlines coming up with us at 9:20 today. It is Monday, February the 3rd. The 70 days of January are behind us. Good morning. How are we doing?
Yes, I'm glad they are behind us. Started February out in a good way with some nice temperatures, and the Grammys were good last night. Mm-hmm. I stayed up and watched those, which I now am probably kicking myself. But I love live music, and I felt like there were a lot of good acts last night.
There were a ton of good acts last night. Did you have a favorite one?
I actually, and I didn't even know of this rapper, so pardon me for not knowing who she was, who won rap album of the year. For the females. How do you pronounce her?
Doechii. Oh, she was great.
You've
heard her song before.
And once I heard it, like when she got out there, I was like, okay, yeah. I never put a face with like the music though, and her performance visually too was awesome. Like she had all the dancers together, and then she was out in her little swimsuit looking thing at the end, which, hey, if you got a body, show it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your favorite?
For me, it's kind of tough because we've heard this song. That's the thing about the Grammys, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear all these songs a million times. You've already heard them. It's people kind of playing the hits. But I really enjoyed Shabuzi last night.
Did you?
Someone pour me up a double shot of whiskey. Actually, making a triple shot of whiskey. Scratch that, I actually want to
Quadruple shot of whiskey.
I changed my mind again.
Who is that?
No one. It's a fake song.
That's hilarious.
I'm so tired of the song. Love Shabuzi, but it's like, why is he performing this? We've had to hear this for over a year.
So long. So long.
I mean, the only one that I could hear over and over again and not get tired of is Teddy Swift.
Yeah.
And that
he
song.
He performed last night, too?
Yeah, acapella,
and I
obviously.
missed a good one last night.
They went like back to back to back.
Those new artists?
All the new artists cooked.
Dude, they
Ray
were
was really good.
Ridiculously
Cynthia
good.
Aviro doing Frank Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon was the highlight of all of it for me.
Oh, yeah, she's phenomenal.
Terrific. The Quincy Jones, I did not realize how deep Quincy Jones's bag was.
Yeah.
That man was involved in Frank Sinatra, Michael Jackson,
Michael
Fresh
Jackson.
Prince of Bel-Air.
Quincy Jones Day.
No.
Quincy is the man.
As deep of a bag as any person has ever had in any field.
Any field. We can just throw Thriller out there.
That was Rashida Jones's dad.
Yeah.
Karen from The Office, Karen Filippelli.
Yes. In every department.
His daughter went on to manage the Utica branch. That's pretty awesome.
Like, it's like
awesome.
all of Hollywood, basically at this point. Like, he's one of the people that you're like, every single corner of the entertainment industry has Quincy Jones all over. And you know what's even an even bigger flex than that, too? Besides that, this man left over $80 million per child behind.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, he took care of people. That was like the message that Will Smith put out there was like, he pretty much said like, hey, you take care of everybody in your circle. And that's, I guess, what he did.
Man.
Even the Austin Powers, the blah, 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 even that's Quincy Jones.
Yes, Will. I'm glad everybody was more exposed to him. But like, we knew who he was and what he did, but goodness gracious.
Someone collectively I hope that we can just get rid of after last night is these beautiful things.
Oh, God.
I'm over it.
His voice is amazing, but dude, I have heard, I'm good on that one too.
He does not
I'm
match
totally
the voice.
with you.
Let's just say that.
He's in the wrong. Benson Boone is the guy's name. He's living in the wrong decade because if he'd been around in the 80s and 90s with that voice and
when you
those
only
kind
had
of
to come up
outfits,
with one song.
I know exactly.
I saw someone say last night, like, every generation has their Imagine Dragons. I was like, I'm with you. Imagine Dragons had more than one song. This dude has performed this song all year.
At least he's really good at performing it.
So that's his radioactive.
Yeah, 100%.
That was my favorite band in high school.
I thought that song was so cool.
Second favorite.
and then you
Not
just
so
got
much
railroaded by the fact that they kind of did him like Chris Daughtry. We're like,
That was my other favorite in high school.
Daughtry had so many good songs, but they played the hell out of them on the radio.
I'm going home to the place where I belong. Yeah, because he was the one where when someone got voted off American Idol, which I used to love as well, then that was the song they'd play.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Who was Chapel Roan?
What?
Oh, actually, she was really good too.
You know,
See, I thought she sounded terrible.
Peyton made a good
really?
point yesterday.
I thought her
Chapel
performance was
Roan
awesome.
has become the type of person where I worry every time she opens her mouth and she's not singing.
Why?
Because she also canceled a bunch of shows this past year, like an inordinate amount of shows. and kind of like, I don't know. Her music is good.
It just seemed in poor taste to me last night when she's like, let's help all the starving artists and give health care. And it's like this whole thing was to benefit like the wildfires in California.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, by the way, make sure you support those local. Okay, calm down.
I'm sure she has a point, but I don't know. She, her voice is unbelievable. You've heard Pink Pony Club?
I actually didn't really know.
Pony Club.
I like it.
It's so catchy.
It hadn't come across my radar.
catchy.
You've heard Good Luck, Babe? I think you've heard some of her music. She like took over this year.
I didn't really
It was
hear
the year
much
of Sabrina
her
Carpenter, but she was kind of like the other one.
Ramon, come on. You've heard Help Me Put My Socks On, Babe. I feel like we could just make up song titles and you would have no
like
clue.
a 70-year-old fat guy asking that? Like, no, absolutely. That hadn't come across my radar.
Put my socks
By the way,
on.
and Beyonce did win Album of the Year, too, for the first time. Like the album of the year. Yeah, it was over Taylor Swift, Chappell Roan, Billie Eilish, and a few others. Who is Andre 3000 got nominated?
Yeah, he did.
What?
Hot to Go is the one from Chappell Roan you've definitely heard. HOTTOGO. You've heard it all. Yeah, I don't want to sing it because it's going to be in all of our heads the rest of the day.
And that Pink Pony Club's already in
The
there.
worst part about her being advertised for anything is I get excited thinking it's going to be Chappelle. And every time it's Chappell, I'm like, oh, heck yeah, Chappelle. Oh, I see the wrong now. That's unfortunate.
Sure. She got Best New Artist also?
She did.
Yeah.
It was she like burst onto the scene. She's been singing for a minute, as she said in her acceptance speech.
I had no idea. By the way,
it was good. Like I enjoyed the entire Grammys. I mean, except for the end of the Charlie XCX or whatever the heck her name is. That was way too much for me.
You brat summer.
That was too much for me.
I have no idea.
I needed to be under hallucinations.
Okay. That's how I felt when Doechii was out there.
Will walked in.
Music was fine, just too much.
Yeah.
You walked in, and the first thing you said was Drake's punching the air this morning.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar, not like us. He won Best Record of the Year on a diss track. That's crazy.
Diss track. That's the first diss track to win a Grammy, too, on top of that.
Yeah.
Insane, man. What a run. And then this year is more Kendrick Lamar this week.
Well, you got the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl. So, yeah, nuts. What a hard time to be Drake right now.
There you go.
Good time in Knoxville.
Yeah,
man, for
look
a while.
at you, VIP.
64-44, Tennessee over Florida Saturday.
For the number 5 team in the country to be held to 44 points under 50, nuts, okay? By the way, everybody on the panel that picked Florida, cannot do that again, okay? And Gator Mike was having such a great week last week, too. Will, he said he might call in. I bet he won't this week,
I said,
okay?
he saw on Twitter. I saw on Twitter, he said it was the worst loss of the Todd Golden era. He's taken some bigger losses off the court, but biggest loss on the court of the Todd Golden era.
Yes.
That was a rough day for them.
Is their coach very intrusive or something? Because I was sitting around a bunch of folks that just kept telling him, sit down, coach. I was just like, and they were, get off the court, coach. I was just like,
that's just good fans.
Is that a thing?
Thompson Bowling Arena had taken some criticism for not being as lively this season. I think people heard the complaints.
Change that around there.
By the way, our guy, Ron Slay, y'all see his promo?
Yeah,
awesome.
that was awesome.
We were talking at the end of the show on Friday about how the new renovations were coming out, and then Slay's the one that narrated what the new renovations were.
And they took a snippet. Everywhere. They took a snippet of his where it was just like, what was it? Create chaos and feed the floor.
Yeah.
And they
Spark the summit.
And then it was
feed
like
the floor.
Because that's all I know. And the stadium went nuts at that part, right? That was just like, who the hell does Ron Slay think he is?
Sports entertainer.
Oh, my gosh. So
Knoxville icon.
That was cool. The group we were around, man, was super solid. Angle was awesome, man.
Were you on the floor?
No, I was not on the floor.
Because I know you were trying to work on that.
Top of the second level.
Right.
Per the Instagram story.
Yeah, it was. You're 100% correct. Great leg room up there, too, by the way. It was real good leg room. That's all I care about.
That's rare to find at a Tennessee stadium because it's so packed in.
I'm not looking for, like, floor seats for just to be fancy. I need it for the leg room, okay? Like, that's all I need it for. I've done in the middle of the stands. I've done bleacher seats. I fanned myself out is what I'm telling you guys, okay? No. Comfort is what I'm seeking in stadiums now.
That's fair.
I feel it.
But it was good. Big win without Zakai and also Igor. But then on top of that, Then later that evening, had a surprise birthday party inside of Neyland. My homeboy's wife had a birthday party. I had no idea you could host a birthday party inside of a stadium.
Well, if you played the NFL and you were a first-round pick from playing in that stadium, then absolutely.
That you can.
Listen, Ramon's like, I just want to have my birthday party here for the leg room. You know?
Exactly. Plenty of
Tennessee
room.
Terrace.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You know, people do apps and stuff like that for birthday parties and information. Like he had a place where we were all staying at the Crown Plaza. I was like, cool, we're going to do it in a ballroom here. This makes perfect sense. Everybody can just have a good time.
It's a good
go up
place
to
to
their
stay,
rooms. It is awesome place to stay at, okay? But then I read the details. I never read details on anything.
Oh, jeez.
And it had Philip Former-Way. I said, oh, crap, we are at the stadium? How could you pull this off? But
So you really didn't know that's what it was?
I didn't know until about 2 hours before, Kayla, that we were having a party at the stadium.
Wow.
Okay, that's just me. I show
Good for
up,
you.
be there, and it was an awesome
Look at you live it on a weekend.
I know,
Football
right?
season over. You had your first off day in about 6 months.
But hey,
Lived it up,
listen,
Brian.
awesome. And it was also funny, too, because you can tell everybody else has been in football mode. Rob Harris has been in football mode.
Yep.
And he was just, we left early at like 1 o'clock. Apparently, they went to like 4 o'clock in Knoxville, just finding bars to go to. I was just like, you know what? Not the life I'm choosing to live, knowing that I got to go right back to Nashville and be responsible. So, real good time this weekend, man. I did a LL Cool J themed outfit, man. It was real cool.
LL Cool J. That's what that. Okay.
The outfit is this old 80s clothing brand, Troop. It was actually really, really cool. And velour suits, that's why old dudes wear them now.
Sure.
Comfortable as hell. Listen, if y'all see me
all
wearing a
about
lot,
legroom.
yes.
Moral of the story.
You see me with a lot of velour outfits on, just know.
Is that what we're gonna? Is that what you're gonna wear now when you come in
the
here?
big
to work?
4-0
Just
is
listen.
upon you.
Hey, man.
615-737-1045 is our number. Florida had not been held under 60 points all season. Was held under 50 by Tennessee on Saturday with Ramon Foster and plentiful legroom in attendance on Saturday afternoon. Coming up, there is new buzz around the number 1 overall pick. It's Groundhog Day. Almost literally. I say that figuratively and literally. We'll give you the latest from the Senior Bowl, what ESPN's Pete Thamel and Jeremy Fowler wrote about the buzz coming out of Mobile, including about the number 1 pick coming up.
Hey, it is a new year, and that means some of us have some new goals. Maybe you're on your hair growth journey. I definitely started that about a year ago now, and noticed that when I was looking in the chat, seeing a little bit of fineness around my temples, and I thought, I need to go to We Grow Hair and get on a plan. And they did that for me. And now I'm just loving it because I can see the hair growth coming back. Look, they have everything when it comes to what you need. Maybe you're looking for more hair in just one procedure. That is the Artist Robotic FUE procedure that they offer. That's going to give you 2 times more hair in just one procedure. Also, the fast 45-minute laser and PRP treatments, they are for both men and women. That is what I've been doing over the last 6, 7, 8 months now. And that has helped me really grow my hair back. I've seen a difference. It's backed by the only company I trust to grow back my thinning hair, and it is We Grow Hair. You can call them right now for a free consultation at 615-376-6010. That's 615-376-6010. Make sure you're looking and feeling better in the new year. Go to WeGrowHair.com.
RKW Live on 104.5 The Zone, kicking off your Monday morning. 615-737-1045, the number, and streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV. You hit the comment section and you join the F&M Bank chat. Eric writes in on YouTube and says, trying to predict what the conversation will be during the opening segment of a sports show in the offseason is like trying to guess what the next stock run is. And you're going to listen either way.
We appreciate you, Eric, because I think for that one, most times, man, we just, okay, what happened over the weekend? And we just go from there.
Especially on a Monday. Because there's a lot of time to talk about.
What do you want us to? The Pro Bowl was on Sunday afternoon, and Jeffrey Simmons played dodgeball.
Big dodgeball. He was also playing cards on the sideline. I don't know if y'all saw that.
That's all he does in the locker room.
They were like, hey, no reason to look at your team. they kind of threw him under the sideline reporter kind of threw him under the bus.
Straight up.
Oh yeah, she was like, yeah, no, your team's in the red zone. No need to watch. You know, what are you guys playing over here? Him and Cam Hayward.
I mean, I'm fine with it.
There is absolutely nothing for the big guys to do. Like, you don't go to this Pro Bowl to watch the big dudes run around and catch football.
Yeah,
I've yet to see a game that happens on Sunday in like the last 5+ years.
It's funny. That is the ultimate example of there is no reason to watch it live. If anything significant happens from the Pro Bowl, you're going to see it on social media. There is no reason to sit down. Oh, the Pro Bowl's on. Like, go watch women's basketball. Like, go watch something else that's meaningful that's going on.
Yeah, there was a lot going on this week.
It has quickly become the worst all-star game in sports.
It is. It's even more than the NBA. Well, I actually enjoy the NBA.
The
a little
NBA is
bit.
fine.
But the only thing that can come out of the NFL Pro Bowl is something bad.
Right.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. Like, it's such a physical sport. Like, but it is unwatchable, man.
I mean, when you had Sean Taylor out here decapitating folks.
Yeah, right.
Like,
100%.
Eventually.
I get it.
What's even more crazy, bizarre, and like going back like maybe 15, 20 years. No, it's about 20 plus years at this point. I saw something where Joey Porter was going up against an offensive lineman in a bench press contest. Just like, that's what the old NFL was. Like, we're never getting back to that one. No, because it'll be in somebody's luck in this era. They'll end up popping a pectoral muscle or something like that.
Yeah.
I was surprised, though, about the crowd. I mean, the crowd was still huge in Orlando yesterday for the flag football game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was packed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's still big stars there, people who go there that get to see their favorite players. That's still a thing. It's for us, though, I think, who watch it and, we cover this sport every day of our life. It's like, okay, what is this?
It was Joey Porter versus Larry Allen, Dallas Cowboy offensive lineman. He did like 43 reps. Joey Porter did 32.
Oh, you looked it up, man. I was about to have y'all guess. No. He did like 43.
It was 43.
You knew exactly how many it was.
Yep, I did.
I would rather see him do a talent show. Like,
that'd be so
genuine talent show. Like, hey, this is what I'm good at. And that way you kind of humanize your players. People get to see them. You might make some new fans. But nobody's watching anyway. So
you could combine the Grammys and the Pro Bowl and just give them the list of songs that are about to be performed that night in the Grammys.
The Grow Bowl. Maybe not.
I was believing it for a second, Bert.
You had me in the first
half. The Grammy Bowl.
Those songs and those costumes, woo, that'd be a sight.
That'd be great marketing,
that would be a sight.
man.
They'd be wearing a lot more clothes than Doechii last night at the end of her.
Was it that?
Or Kanye West did.
There was a lot of people who didn't wear a lot of clothes. Let's just be honest.
I ordered.
I don't want to. I can name them all if you want me to.
Y'all just wait.
What's that?
What Kanye's beautiful wife was wearing last night. I've ordered mine. So you guys are going to have to get used to the shower curtain I'm going to be wearing back here.
The smirk on his face on watching her walk across.
So on ESPN.com yesterday, there is building sentiment.
Nuts.
I can't have Kim. I'm going to make me one.
Yes.
All right.
Censored.
Oh, my God.
Censored.
And there it is. All right. So there's building sentiment around one player, the number one overall pick. We should make a list of the different phrases used to tell us who media thinks is going to be picked.
Oh, yeah.
Building sentiment, new buzz, growing intrigue. I don't know. This time it's building sentiment. ESPN's Pete Thamel says from scouts and executives this week that Cam Ward is likely to be the number one pick. Says this is more anecdotal than scientific. Add that to the list as well. As neither passer, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, was in Mobile. But Ward's versatility and ability to run stand out as separating traits. What do you guys make of that coming out of Mobile? Cam Ward being the initial buzz around the number 1 overall pick?
I will say this. There is going to be something new every week. Like you mentioned, last week it was Shedeur Sanders because they had just spoke with Shedeur Sanders, and clearly like they hadn't spoke with Cam Ward yet. And there's nobody who has said that they've spoken with Cam or seen him live in a workout yet. But obviously after the Senior Bowl, there is a lot of big-time people that are there. There are a lot of agents that are there. There are a lot of mouthpieces that are at the Senior Bowl that if the Titans wanted to say, hey, we're kind of looking about, having more interest in Cam Ward at this point, this is why. It is still one of those things that half of me thinks that they really will have interest in him and take him at number 1. There's a lot of me, though, that is still saying there's a lot to be cautious about because they're going to sell this as probably the quarterback they're going to take. Because he is right now in front of Shedeur Sanders in terms of, I think, the rankings on a lot of people's boards. A lot of draft analysts put him right before Shedeur Sanders. And I think that it's half and half. Like, what can we believe? So it's no surprise at all, guys, that this came out of the Senior Bowl week, though. Because if anything, you want to have interest and show you have interest in at least one of these quarterbacks. Because when it's all said and done, you want to have choices and be able to do business.
Yeah, you do. And the two choices to me are, of course, we know them, Shedeur and Cam. And to me, it boils down to this. I think Cam looks like the guy they want him to. He's taller, long, rangy, wiry, whatever you want to give him. Like, he played at Florida State, so he checks that box also. The way his pathway.
You mean Miami?
Miami. The pathway he's gotten to get to where he is right now. Small school, bigger school, and had his team in contention for college football playoffs. And he's improved this year as far as turnovers go. His biggest issue, though, is his ability to lose the ball in the pocket or when he runs. So he's had 8 fumbles on the season, too. So Cam being the number 1 guy to me is because of the arm. I think when you look at either one of those guys, I think Cam has he has the stronger arm. I think he has the better legs as far as being able to run and improv also. It's just that you look at a guy like Shedeur and you say to yourself, you know that the ball is going to get there and it's going to be efficient as ever. I think Shedeur has more efficiency. I think Cam has more excitement is the way I view him. But it's also one of those situations where you got a gunslinger in Cam, I feel like, for the most part, that can get you in trouble. Most coaches always think, well, I can fix those things. Whereas Shedeur seems to be on tempo. It's slower, but it's good, and he's not as mobile also as I think Cam Ward is this time around. It's going to be fascinating because I've seen Shedeur be trained up by a lot of legends. Deion's done a really good job as far as putting him around a bunch of mental guys like Brady and others around the league to where I don't think that's been talked about enough for Shedeur. I think you might have a more calm player in Shedeur, despite what the antics around him are. But you're looking at pure quarterback, I think people are intrigued by Cam Ward's ability to just improv, which can be, of course, I'd rather say Wold and Sickham. And in those situations right there, I feel like that's the way teams feel about Cam Ward.
There is a lot of, quarterbacks that throughout the years have turned more to improvisation, right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes is literally who we think of when we think of that, and especially coming out of Texas Tech. He even spoke in an article a few years ago about how even who he looked to in Brett Favre with some of the improvisation. And that was something that he was known for was turnovers, Brett Favre, right?
Yeah.
But he also had the improv in his game, and that was one of the best quarterbacks we talk about to this day. I do want to share real quick a coach that is very close to Cam Ward. He's been on, one of his journeys. I'm not going to specifically say who it is, but reached out to him this weekend because I wanted to get a real idea of what a coach that worked with him full time thought about Cam Ward.
Yeah.
So not my opinion. This is a coach's opinion. Incredible in every sense of the word. Great human, unbelievable personality, fiercely competitive, diligent in his preparation, film study, and practice habits. Exudes confidence. Love that kid. I think he will thrive at the NFL. The kid has played for 4 different play callers in his college career and just gotten better with all 4 of them. So be able to learn and retain information is something that is a real positive for him. He's incredibly talented, will be able to do anything the next level asks of him.
It's interesting. I know the play calling part of it, I think, is where Shedeur Sanders is definitely the most different. And how much does that matter to you guys? Like the system these guys are coming from, because the tutelage of Pat Shurmur with Shedeur Sanders in an NFL system versus Cam Ward, who's had 4 different play callers and has kind of had to make it up as he goes at times.
I think that's where, looking at some of the pros and cons of Cam, that's where Cam actually has more of a con than Shedeur. It's because they said, of course, he's still adjusting to reading coverages downfield. He can be tricked often in pre-snap situations. And it's one of those things that, again, to your point, Caleb, about him learning that many offenses, how many defenses has he actually learned and broken down because of those sentiments right there? To whereas a guy like Shedeur has been set down, coached by a former NFL guy, and be in a position to where, hey, in this scenario, we do this. And in that scenario, we do this. And you also see this too. Shedeur has the ability to let the play come to him at times, whereas he sits in the pocket. One thing I know about this is guys that sit in the pocket, they know they got to get rid of the football, and they also know where the ball is going at all times too, which is why you see him sometimes scrambling backwards, not getting up the way he should, and not. Right. I mean, he's not as fast as his dad. That's one thing I think is the most surprising of all things about Shedeur to me, is he doesn't have his dad's speed. To your point, we'll ask that question. The coverages, the breakdown, knowing where the balls are, not being tricked. I think Shedeur has the advantage in that department, although Cam relies heavily on his ability to use his arm to get out of bad situations, which can be a good part too. It's just a matter of where is the ball going to end up after he releases it.
Yeah, and, someone on the chat says, was Cam Ward like from the neck up? Because that's what we heard Mike Bergonzi and Chad Brinker talk about, that is what type of quarterback is he, think-wise. I mean, from everything I've heard, again, I just read off what a coach said about Cam Ward. I mean, that's not just to throw away. Those are some really encouraging words for the young man. I think he's smart. And I think even if he doesn't succeed right away at something, he's going to go in and do the work. I think that's what you got to love about him too. He's wired the right way in terms of he doesn't get too high in moments, and I don't think he gets too low either, because he will go on to the next play. And part of this, I think, with these 2 quarterbacks we're talking about, guys, there is still development, right? I think in Cam Ward in particular needs to work on his footwork. That's fixable. From everybody I've kind of spoke to, and I know Greg Cosell is going to break down his film, but I think he initially said that's some of the things that he looked at and pointed out. But I think that's why I would like to see one of these quarterbacks, either Shedeur or Cam, sit for a minute here in Tennessee. And I know some fans don't like that, but I think they're going to bring in a bridge quarterback no matter what. If you do that, though, maybe you then allow them to not get thrusted right in and learn some of these things. So then when it is their time, they're going to be better at those types of things that we're talking about that maybe they didn't experience at the college level.
Pete Thamel in this piece at ESPN.com says NFL teams will have a lot to dig into here, and they'll hear rave reviews from the staff at Miami. As offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson said, Ward is, quote, obsessed with the game and was the first player in his office every day. Says the Miami staff is bullish on his leadership, as Hurricanes head coach Mario Cristobal told ESPN that he showed natural leadership through action and lifted people up in the program. Mario Cristobal quoted within this saying his impact will be long-lasting at Miami.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he checks the boxes. I mean, you listen to the back and forth that he and Shedeur have had over this last year, and I feel like they've been together for 2-3 years at this point. But that is, you can hear it come out of them. But it's got to always be pointed in the right direction, too. That's where I am with a guy like him. I don't think you can go wrong with either. I just don't. If you have to stick and pick, at this point, I think it might be Cam, but what I would say is this. I do think you have a guy in Shedeur, they may have a better start. I'm not sure how the end is going to happen. But as far as the start, as far as knowing the offense, delivery of the football, you get that with Shedeur. I saw somebody in the chat say it too, and that's always been that with Cam. his pocket presence and ability to move around the pocket, protect the football is something that he's got to be able to shore up as it pertains to his growth and pathway through this NFL league. Because soon as teams feel like they can flush him, it's going to be problematic with him, especially if his ball security isn't there.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's interesting that the words Pete Thamel uses here are chosen very carefully. There is no link to the Titans and Cam Ward. The only thing Pete Thamel writes is there is growing sentiment that Ward is likely to be the number one pick. Mm-hmm. I think that's interesting because I think it'd be really easy for the report to be there is growing sentiment that the Titans will select Cam Ward with the number one pick. I think perhaps this could be the Titans back channeling, walking back the generational player comment. And hey, we think Cam Ward is probably going to end up just being the guy that goes number one. But might not be us.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if he goes number one, what does that put Shador at? That's my only question. If Cam goes first, I don't know how far Shador falls at that
There's
point.
still plenty of teams that
I don't think you get past 7 with the Jets.
that need quarterbacks.
Past 7.
But, I mean, the Jets could move up. There's just so much we still don't know yet. I don't think he gets past 7, though.
There's too many teams in the top 10 that need a quarterback in some which way or another. And really with these two only being, I think, the ones that have potential to start sooner than later, they've got to go get one of those.
So let's count the teams that need a quarterback in the top 10. So Titans at 1 do. Cleveland at 2 does. That's 2.
Yep.
Giants at 3 do. Yep. Patriots and Jags don't. The Raiders at 6, yes, that's 4. The Jets at 7, that's 5. And the Saints at 9.
Could be.
I don't think they need a... I'm not going to say they're as needy. I think conservatively, you have 5 teams in the top 10 picks that need a quarterback, and you have 2 top 10 caliber. Yeah. Well, you have 2 quarterbacks that are first-round caliber.
Right.
Who you are, inclined to overdraft, which Mel Kiper also said over the weekend that we're going to hear from coming up later in the show.
Yeah, that's plenty of teams to try to do business with somebody.
You just got to really love a guy to be willing to mortgage everything and trade up. Because if you get that wrong, you end up having a Trey Lance situation. And San Francisco made that work because they signed Mr. Relevant. But, that's the level of covering up your mistakes it takes to not really feel the pain of that mistake.
There's plenty of organizations, though, have done some not great things, not smart things.
And do you find yourself in Dallas situation that if Shador does slip, you find yourself like the Dallas Mavericks and go ahead and get your new superstar.
Oh, boy.
A perfect segue to the conversation we're going to have coming up next. It takes a lot for me to want to talk about the NBA. But my goodness, I need someone to explain the Luka Doncic trade to me like I'm 5. We're going to try to do that coming up next.
It's the month of romance, man. Valentine's is almost here. Get those reservations in. But if not, my folks at Genesis Diamonds is going to help you with that, too, because you might be looking for the most thoughtful, most romantic gift for the one you love this Valentine's. Well, at Genesis Diamonds, celebrating love is their specialty. Maybe it's a simple pendant, or maybe it's an exquisite, one-of-a-kind designer ring. Genesis can help you pick out the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for the occasion. And to make it even sweeter, now till Valentine's, whether you spend $399 or $399,000, Genesis will give you some chocolates, fresh flowers, and a dinner out at no extra charge. It's a one-stop shop for the ultimate Valentine's experience. When you buy any piece of beautiful jewelry for $399 and up, Genesis will give you a bouquet of flowers from Jenny's Florist and a gift card for dinner at any Fancy Pants restaurant. So don't mess around. Get the Genesis Diamonds, guys. See their spectacular collection of rings, earrings, pendants, bands, bracelets, and more. Their non-commissioned experts will help you find that perfect thing that will celebrate your love. And Genesis will even throw in the chocolates, flowers, and dinner at no charge. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs. And, of course, limited quantities. See store for details.
Wrapping up hour one this morning on RKW 104.5 The Zone, 615-737-1045 the number, and streaming live at 104.5 The Zone TV. Luka Doncic got traded to the Lakers over the weekend, and myself and many of the rest of America woke up thinking that Sham Sharani of ESPN had gotten hacked on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Can you explain this trade to me like I'm five? What's the NFL equivalent of Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, for those people in this area that aren't NBA people, myself included?
It would be like the Patriots not signing back Tom Brady. Almost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Patriots not signing back Tom Brady. Like, he's a part of you, you are a part of him. That's how shocked it was, like shocking it was. Like, if Tom Brady had another year and they traded him to Tampa instead of his contract expiring. This is, I think that sums it up for the most part.
Yeah, it was odd. I mean, I'm not the biggest NBA person, but clearly I'm a sports person, so I understand, the superstars in that league. And Luka Doncic is clearly one of the guys that has taken the NBA by storm in the last several years and definitely elevated the Dallas Mavericks in every level. So when it came to this trade, it was not only shocking for the fact that, LA gets another guy that they want, but it was just between LA and Dallas. Yeah. There was no other business being had. And essentially you're trading out a 31-year-old Anthony Davis for a 25-year-old Luka Doncic. And it's like, wait, what are we missing here? And the only thing that comes to my mind is they were having issues and continue to have issues with his, being able to keep up with his weight and conditioning part of it. But is that warranted then to do that type of trade?
No, it's just the kind of things that come out after the fact when you make your whole fan base mad.
Right. So that's the only thing that I would even possibly think about. They were just tired of it.
And it's also this side of it too. One, the Mavericks get a rim protector, of course, and AD, and they're in a window right now where I think we've all learned defense is going to win you championships, and Dallas is trying to get one of those right now. Kyrie's one of the best to be doing it, so he helps them more. You also look at the Lakers side of it. Of course, their eyes peaked up with Luka because they get a new superstar post LeBron. They're going to have crazy shooters. They're just going to have no defense, so they got to find somebody to supplement this. But it's also the money. This is where ratings have been down so bad that if you are a team to have one of these supermax extensions going on and the ratings are that bad for you, how can you justify paying that much money to a guy that you don't believe is fully bought into? You can send him to L.A. because L.A., they love you over there for that type of stuff, but they also disqualified him now from his supermax.
They did,
So L.A. gets that. Dallas gets the opportunity to also relieve themselves of the monies they would have been able to pay him, and he's only 25, 26 years old.
He's 25. Turns 26 on February 28th.
I think his supermax is almost $400 million. You see what I'm saying?
It's crazy, some of the money in the NBA.
You do have to look at the money side of it. Lakers get their succession plan post LeBron. They got something to build off of. A Dalton Connect, Austin Reeves. Like, they gotta.
No, they're starting to build like a young group there.
Not many trades go over. It's like, I can make real good sense of that. This one does to me because Anthony Davis can get him another ring potentially, help Kyrie, rim protect. And
be healthy.
That's what I was going to say. He's got to be able to play some games.
At this point.
Well, it is crazy. So Luka has been an all NBA first team selection each of the past 5 seasons. He is only one of 5 active players to have at least that many first team picks, and only one of 28 in NBA history.
And
he's 25.
Steph Curry don't have that. Like 5 times. Like, Steph doesn't, but this young joker at 25 years old has it. Like, that is insane.
Well, now he needs some championships to go along with it.
It's going to be a while before you get one out of L.A. It's the way I feel about it. But L.A. got another star. This sets.
Big time.
Yeah, big time.
I think that's what will be interesting to watch at least the remainder of this year and whatever LeBron James decides to play from here on out. Because we don't know yet what his timeline is. He says he's looking to retire in the near future, but what's the near future for him? They're both similar players. So what does that look like when Luka comes in and is healthy now to play, which we're waiting to see when that will be? Or is it a fact that if they do make a deep run, at least now you've got a guy, if LeBron's, needing to sit for a minute, you've got Luka who can step right in and pretty much be that guy that LeBron is. So that'll be interesting to see how that works together with those two.
And they said, of course, listen to all the commentary from this past weekend. The Lakers were probably going to be the only ones that bite on something like this with Luka. Like they knew if you want to AD, everybody is going to take Luka after the fact. You're also finding yourself now listening to Kevin Garnett over this past weekend. NBA is about to hit a crossroad. They're about to hit a real bad one. The fact that he and a few others are talking about. I'll go to Kevin Garnett. We can't use his audio because KG just loves to cuss, okay?
Too much beeping out on that one.
But he said this, though, because I'm looking at Jimmy Butler right now on ESPN.com. He's on there, and you see Luka. He was like, you jokers are messing up everything that we've set down in front of us for decades now. He was like, guaranteed contracts, we're at a crossroad right now. He was just like, the fact that you guys won't play, the fact that you have Jimmy Butler who waited to get a supermax from Miami, I think whatever he got from Miami, and then chose to sit after the fact. And
he's just not showing up.
To now force himself out. And then you also find now that the Dallas Mavericks are in a situation where they basically said, we can't afford to what you do anymore. You got a calf. I don't know how long a calf takes for it to heal, but you're not playing and we're paying you all this money. Said, don't be shocked if the NBA start to get the fans on their side and start to take back the power of guaranteed contracts, because why do I have to pay you? And some of these dudes don't even play for 2+. I think it was John Wall. Remember when he was with the Houston Rockets? John Wall signed a big old deal and sat for 2 full years.
Yeah, that to me is wild.
So the NBA players better come together, because what the NFL does have is fans, like the owners. The fans are loyal to the owners.
Interesting.
As bad as the product is right now, as far as viewership, that's going to happen if the owners have to step in, is they're going to nix those guaranteed contracts, is what Kevin Garnett stated recently.
Our friend Austin Stanley texts us and says, it's like the Ravens trading Lamar to the Browns for Myles Garrett. That's a pretty good comparison.
That's a real good correlation.
Mid-20s quarterback for a defensive guy later in his career. I do want to send a congratulations, though, this morning, guys. Congratulations to John Robinson and the Tennessee Titans. You are no longer the worst professional trade in pro sports over the last 5 years. I want to send a congrats to John and all the folks who traded A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to forget about you from now on, because the Dallas Mavericks, you're up, baby. You are up. You are now the worst trade in pro sports over the last decade.
Ran into him in Mobile, too, by the way. He was down there looking and scouting and evaluating players.
I'm sure he was.
How's he doing?
He's trying to get hired.
Is he looking
He
in
could be the
shape?
next GM of the Jags.
Had some time to
He was in great
clear his
spirit.
brain.
Heck, if I was still on payroll, I'd be in great spirits.
He doesn't have to do interviews on Zoom anymore.
Too. I'd look like I was 40 years younger.
615-737-1045 is our number. Hour 2 on deck, and the Raiders made a major move yesterday that might affect the Tennessee Titans in the NFL draft. We'll tell you coming up next.
That's it.
Hey, it's Will Bowling, and I want to update you with exciting news from Brentwood Hearing Center and some of the new hearing device technology they have got for you. Their leadership team recently attended the launch of a revolutionary hearing aid, the Phonak Sphere, which is dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations when there's background noise. And if you feel like you're having trouble when you're at sporting events, you're at a crowded restaurant, maybe you're just visiting with friends or clients. We've had holiday parties over the last month. Well, give them a call at 615-377-0420 and let Brentwood Hearing Center introduce you to the best technology on the market. And this is industry-changing technology. It's also going to connect directly to your smartphone, to your television. When you have those hearing devices on, you've got surround sound or whatever you're watching at home. You need to visit them online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com to find out more. Give them a call, 615-377-0420, and let Brentwood Hearing Center introduce you to the sounds that you've been missing. That's 615-377-0420. Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life.
7 o'clock, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Coaching staffs in the NFL and college football taking shape as Chip Kelly was named the offensive coordinator of Las Vegas Raiders. Kelly spent 7 years in college football, including last season as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for the national champion Ohio State, which averaged 35.7 points, going 14-2. Ohio State lost 3 key assistant coaches this offseason to the NFL. Chip Kelly going to the Las Vegas Raiders, Jim Knowles going to Penn State, and Justin Fry headed to the Arizona Cardinals. And as a couple coordinators go back to the NFL, another one comes back to the college ranks as Alabama is hiring former Seahawks offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb as its new offensive coordinator. Grubb reunites with Kalen DeBoer, who he was with at Washington his entire coaching career. And in the NBA, we were consumed by the trade of Luka Doncic this weekend to the Lakers. A second superstar is on the move as De'Aaron Fox was shipped from Sacramento to San Antonio to be paired with Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs are currently 2 games back from the 10th seed in the West. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. and hour number 2 gets started right now on RKW. Welcome to a brand new week. Hope you're having a good start to your morning so far. Hope we can make it a little bit better for you. Coming up in 20 minutes, we're going to talk more about the building sentiment that Cam Ward is going to be the number 1 overall pick. Mel Kiper gave a very interesting comparison of Ward and Shedeur Sanders to the quarterbacks from last year's draft class. So we're going to tell you about that coming up here at 7:20. 615-737-1045 with open phone lines. And guys, Chip Kelly lasted 1 year in Columbus. After being in that weather for 5 minutes, I wouldn't last even a year there. The Las Vegas Raiders are hiring the Ohio State offensive coordinator and former Oregon and UCLA head coach. Pete Thamel and Adam Schefter had the story yesterday. What does this mean for, let's say first, college football in Ohio State? Because Chip Kelly was a big reason why Ohio State and the Buckeyes were as dominant as they were, especially down the stretch this past season in the national championship.
To me, I feel like college football is about to be treated like the G League. Whatever you are trying to test out and be better at, if you show a proof of concept, especially if now that you have playoff teams and there's essentially a free agency and you can pick and choose the players that you want on your squad, if it shows that you can coach NFL caliber talent, then you will find yourself back in the NFL from the college. I do think this will happen. I like it right now as it pertains to watching these guys get these second opportunities in non-head coach positions too. I like it because we're not doing a retread of, hey, Chip Kelly, you did this whole thing in Philadelphia as the head coach. No, he's a play caller. I think that right there settles guys, the coach's ability to go from one league to the other. And the other side of it for me is this. They've now put themselves in positions to where you view this type of move and you say to yourself, the game, to me, is probably in a safer spot because you got college coaches who will also go get NFL jobs that will also be coaching this college style of offense that they're taking to the NFL now, meaning we're watching Cliff Kingsbury, who was a college coach, like really grab on to Jaden Daniels and craft an offense for him because he was closer to the college world in a sense, or not far removed from it, where he's coached that style of guy in this new era of NFL quarterback football.
Chip Kelly's such a fascinating figure. I know he's one of those guys that continues to make a name for himself sometimes reinvent himself. And I don't know if that's the greatest word to use, but in a way, I don't think any of us would have seen him leaving UCLA, which he was paid about $6 million per year, to go to Ohio State, obviously take a bit of a pay cut there to be an offensive coordinator, and clearly kind of reinvented himself there. Now he has a national championship under his name as a coordinator. And now going back to the NFL, which is his third stint there. He was a head coach for the Eagles, a head coach for the Niners for a short time being.
Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly.
With the Niners?
Or sorry, not a head coach. He was a
coordinator.
Was he a coordinator there?
No,
I
don't think so.
He was there for a hot second, wasn't he? In 2016? Yeah. I thought he was an interim at some point.
16, he was head coach. They got him as head coach. I don't know if this is real, but he's interim.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So he's obviously been in the NFL. Yeah,
forgettable tenure for Chip Kelly.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of weird. Like, he's had like some weird moments. Maybe we aren't getting this right. We can investigate that in a minute. But now he's back in the NFL, and the thing that's interesting about this is he's back with another coach who's been in the business for a long time, has also dipped his toes in the college scene with Pete Carroll. They go back to like 2010. When Chip Kelly was the head coach at Oregon, and he went up and visited Pete Carroll and kind of got a feel of his offense. So now he's back there and he's getting, so I am right on that. He
went 2-14. You're right.
Yeah, he's
How
now.
did we miss
He'd
that?
also like to forget that he was head coach of the 49ers.
It was right after the Jim
I mean,
Tom Sula head coaching. So, like, the 49ers were kind of in disrepair anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a hot second, but he was still there. So, anyways, he's back to the NFL. My point being, now that we got thrown off track, my point being is he's now getting paid $6 million in the NFL to not have to deal with being a head coach. He's going to be an offensive coordinator. So that makes me think now, too, does he talk Pete Carroll and these guys at the Raiders front office into, hey, I need a quarterback to work with? So what should we do now? Should we be in the mix? Can we get this guy if he sees somebody that he really likes or that he can mold? Because we know how Chip Kelly is with his, quarterbacks. He probably wants somebody of his own in the system that he's bringing there. Do they now get really in the mix in terms of the quarterback market for the draft?
Only thing that bothers me about the Vegas thing is Pete Carroll's only got a 3-year deal. Mm-hmm. That's the longevity of what you're going to be asking him to do in that situation. Like, who's his replacement after the fact? Again, he's already an older gentleman, but he's young at heart. But that plays a lot in my decision making. I feel like.
I think for what it means for college football, the question is which sitting head coach now becomes Ryan Day's next offensive coordinator. Like, can you go replicate that and do it again? Like, does someone like Alex Golesh want to be an OC again for more money than what he's getting at USF?
That's at this point, that's what their job is advertising.
That's what they have to pay. They already lost Jim Knowles. Like, they're going to need to make big hires on both of those coordinator positions because, to me, if I'm listing why Ohio State won the national championship this year, I'm talking about their wide receivers, their $20 million roster, and the fact they had the two best coordinators in college football.
I don't know if it's going to be a big name. They have a lot of money that's obviously helping them there, but they also got to continue to pay players. They now lost both their coordinators, and I'm sure that the defensive coordinator that comes there, they're going to be looking for money. You can't pay everybody.
They can.
They can.
In college, there's no salary cap on that. Like, they will always find money in college.
I just thought this was a little bit of a rarity that Chip Kelly goes there. I don't think it's going to be some big name in terms of a former head coach.
It's happening more around the sport, though, where head coaches are taking coordinator jobs. Like, it's easier for them to make that next step to be a P4 head coach by just being a Power 4 coordinator.
Yeah. And the same thing goes, I think, again, to this same point. Like, nobody ever thought that Bill Belichick would come down to the college ranks. Like, I do think we're going to see more of an influx of that happening. It was the former Auburn head coach that went and just said, you know what, I'm going to be a play caller. Not Chizik. Went to Florida State, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, what I'm saying is this.
Gus Malzahn.
Gus.
Yeah, he was the UCF head coach, and now he's the OC at Florida State.
Exactly. So
who's that for Ohio State?
To that point, Keller's, like, I know what you're saying, like, they don't have to go do that, but I think that's the expectation of the job now, is that Ohio State go find somebody that's got some type of credit. I don't think you go find the way Hype will let Golish be his play caller, or you have one of these young guys that are coming up. It's like, oh, yeah, we're willing to experiment. No, I think there is a standard for what Ohio State and a lot of these bigger programs are going to be asking of their coordinators to come with some experience. Hey, we want an NFL guy inside of the building. I honestly think if you go that route and get a former head coach, then you're actually more safer as a head coach yourself. Like Ryan Day going to get an NFL guy just says to me, you're the next one up. It's essentially what Nick Saban did at Alabama. Go find your next guy who's going to be a head coach somewhere else.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, I mean, definitely it has to be a fit too, right? Because a lot of these guys that have head coaching backgrounds, there's ego that comes along with it. You have to be able to understand your role completely. And I know Ryan Day did give up play calling abilities to the OC full time. That's clearly what he did with Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly has an ego. Like, let's not mistake that. So, I mean, if it worked with Chip Kelly, maybe it can work with a lot of these other guys that are out there. So it'll be interesting. Again, they've got to dish out a lot of money there because they've lost a lot of guys. They also lost their O-line coach.
I think it might mean they're just going to draft Will Howard with one of their 3 second-round picks.
I mean, why not? Chip Kelly's worked with him.
They have 3 second-round picks, Vegas. So it's either that or they want to move up and take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. I don't see either of those guys being perfect fits for Chip Kelly, though.
But if he's who we think he is, then he'll craft an offense for him. What he does get, though, Will, if that is the case, he get a blank slate. And essentially what he had out of Will Howard this year is he figured out what was going to work for him in such a short window. And also, too, to that point, Kayla, about ego and Chip Kelly, like, I got to give it to him on this one for him to go downgrade himself, go to college as a coordinator. And then he also ended up taking another coordinator job with the Raiders. Now, I don't know if he's a part of succession plan after Pete Carroll, but he didn't go looking for another head coaching job. I think this may be the smartest thing if you are a brilliant mind offensively or defensively.
He's not a head coach.
Like an Aaron Glenn or whoever the case may be. Like, if you know you aren't a head coach, but they can still give you $3 million plus a year, why would you want the headache of being a head honcho? That to me.
Well, he's clearly grown up and grown out of that stage because he does realize, look, I'm not probably a good head coach, or a great head coach, I should say. Why not just be a really good offensive coordinator? And now I can go back and see if I can do it in the NFL as an OC.
I still think he could be a good college head coach.
Just because of how he runs his ship?
I think you could argue he could have a Sarkisian-level career path where you go from being NFL OC, good college OC, you get so far removed from being a college coach that then you do it again, and you take what you learn from that, and I don't know. The UCLA job was a failure for him, but I don't know how many coaches would have succeeded at UCLA with how much disarray that athletic department is in.
To get back to the college point.
He's not an NFL head coach, though. That's for sure.
I don't think so. I think this is awesome for the game. Because, again, these coaches who would be picked from these college rosters to come be coordinators, I was worried about, okay, can they coach these young quarterbacks up, these mobile guys? But if you have a huge surge of college-style coordinators going into the league, it keeps it afloat. It keeps, to me, it alleviates the pressure of a college quarterback having to learn a pro-style offense. Like, I hope we don't get to the point to where we're not huddling up and stuff like that. But I look at it and say, it's the smartest thing to do in this new era of young quarterbacking to hire these guys that were closer to the college game. It always trickles up from high school to college to the NFL. That's just a pathway.
Like Jay Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury this year.
Facts.
Speaking of that, Mel Kiper compared Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders to the top quarterbacks over the weekend. We'll play you that and some interesting comments from ESPN's lead draft analyst. And I think brings up the biggest question out of all of the quarterback talk for the Titans. Do you trust Brian Callahan to develop whoever the Titans pick at quarterback? We'll talk about that next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Is your heating system keeping up with the colder weather? Well, available 24/7, 365. The professional Lee Company team is here to help. And hey, over the last 48 hours, we've had as good example as ever. We get all 4 seasons in Middle Tennessee in a weekend sometimes. Make sure that Lee Company has your home ready to go. The Lee Company technicians can perform a 22-point inspection as well as seasonal cleaning and maintenance to keep your home running efficiently this winter. And even better, save $30 on your next heating tune-up visit today. That's $30 off on your home's next heating service by contacting Lee Company at 615-567-1000 or go online to leecompany.com for an appointment to keep your home's heating in check. It's the perfect time to make sure your home's heating is in check when the weather is heated up outside a little bit. Contact Lee Company at 615-567-1000 or go online to leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. RKW on 104.5 The Zone rolls on in hour number 2. 615-737-1045 is the number. With Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling with building sentiment around the NFL that Cam Ward is likely to be the number 1 overall pick. That's what ESPN's Jeremy Fowler and Pete Thamel wrote over the weekend at ESPN.com coming out of Mobile at the Senior Bowl. I thought it was interesting, guys, that Miami OC Shannon Dawson is quoted in this article comparing Cam Ward to Jaden Daniels. And Dawson says, the reason I thought Jaden Daniels had a great rookie season is when it wasn't there, he could make a play. And Cam has that same ability. He's not going to be a guy that the speed of the game is going to affect him a lot in his timing. And when it does break down, because NFL defensive lines are elite, he's going to be able to save the play. Do you like that comparison? Cam Ward and Jaden Daniels?
Heck yeah. But it's always like that immediately after a guy jumps onto the scene like that. I think that's appropriate for what Cam Ward has done at Miami is, again, they were, what was it, the amount of one-score losses, the amount of, late wins that they had. Specifically, I think it was a UCLA game that they had, and just Virginia Tech. It's just find ways to win, and that's what Jaden Daniels provided for LSU at that time. So, yeah, I can see that being the case for a guy like him.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is a little more athletic than Cam Ward. I think that Cam Ward can definitely create things out of nothing, but it's not going to be as dynamic. But I will say this, in terms of the journey and the amount of football played that sets players up possibly at the next level, especially the quarterback position, I think there's some things you can compare with those two, too, because Jaden Daniels had a little bit of a longer journey starting out at Arizona State, then going to LSU and continuing to play a lot of football there. And he continued to prove that he could improve along his journey. That's pretty much what kind of Cam's done in his journey as well. I mean, he's improved on his completion percentage every single year. He's improved on, for the most part, he's limited interceptions, although he has turned the ball over a little bit more than people would like at the college level. He's also improved on his rushing ability since 2002 from 58 yards on the ground. He upped that to 204 last year on the ground with some tutties to come along with it. So, yeah, not as athletic as a Jaden Daniels, but I think the mindset and the amount of football played has been something you can compare.
I'm curious about this because I looked up this stat and I had no idea this number was what it was. But how many rushing yards do you think Jaden Daniels had his last year at LSU?
How many rushing yards? Heisman winner?
I think like 600.
I would guess. Let's go 850.
1,100 rushing yards his senior season at LSU. We love to do this in the NFL and compare guys that are nothing alike. I don't think Cam Ward is anything like Jaden Daniels. No. He is a runner. He is a guy that has 2 years of the SEC. Cam Ward had 1 year of the ACC. It's not to diminish Cam Ward. There are a lot of great things that he does better than Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is much more of an athlete in terms of when the play breaks down, he's not only just going to find someone downfield, he can run and cut upfield and run for 50 yards at any given play.
Easily.
So I think that's the big challenge. Yes, you have some of the play extension traits that are similar, but I think Jaden Daniels is able to do that because you have to sit back and respect the fact that he could cut you up and take it to the house. I thought this was interesting from Mel Kiper comparing Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders to Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. And we've had this discussion a lot, right? If Michael Penix came out this year, he's probably the number 1 overall pick. Mel Kiper says there is no comparison between the top 2 this year and the top 3 from last year.
Current rookie class has been really successful in terms of a group of quarterbacks. How would you compare Ward and Sanders to those guys?
No comparison at all. Those guys all on my rating scale had 9.8 grades. Cam Ward, Shedeur. Right now, Shedeur is at 9.2. Cam Ward's at 9.2. But I gave Shedeur's a slight edge. So big difference between a 9.8 and a 9.2 on that quarterback's rating board historically. So they were elite. They were some of the best quarterbacks really of all time in terms of grades. At 9.8 rating, I have a 9.9 for select guys. 9.8s are reserved for the guys that can be spectacular. We thought Caleb Jaden and Drake would be and could be. I don't see that for these guys right now. Certainly, they're going to get forced up. They're going to get overdrafted because quarterback's the most important position in all sports. But for me, they don't deserve to go that high based on grade, but they will go that high based on supply and demand. Everybody, there's a great demand for quarterbacks, very little supply this year, and there's only 2 quarterbacks going in the first round right now, in my opinion, Ward and Sanders.
So that's Mel Kiper of ESPN over the weekend. Of course, you hear that voice, you obviously know exactly who it is. It's pretty recognizable at this point. So I think there's a couple of interesting questions there that we can get into. First and foremost, if these guys are not the level of those quarterbacks, do you trust Brian Callahan to get them to that level?
Do I trust him to? I got to see a better offense from him to start with, Will. Because, again, just because your sister's a great opera singer doesn't mean you're going to be a great opera singer, okay?
Yes, that's
you
true.
You see what I'm saying? And that's why I feel like
expect that comparison.
I know. I was trying to compare it and get it real close to you real quick because I saw her Instagram post this weekend, too. She was killing it again, if I'm not mistaken.
She did.
But with that being said, just because he was around Peyton, Coach Callahan, just because his dad is a phenomenal offensive line coach, just because he's got these elite coaches on his staff doesn't mean you're going to be good. So you got to show me that you're going to be good. We were bragging like crazy on Friday on Sean McVay has changed his offense 3 times. We hadn't seen a concession of 3 good games out of Coach Brian Callahan to begin with, and the one quarterback that he had in his arsenal to make better didn't this year, whether that be him or the system, right? Either way, he's attached to Will Levis's year this year too. Moving forward to your question about can he make them better? It's a matter of, one, the protection of the offensive line. One thing that Cam Ward did have this year was good O-line protection. And as it pertains to the offense, if he does get a guy like Shedeur, can he spin the ball to the sideline or does he want to go down the field? Is this guy a quarterback that he can see reading progressions? Because I don't know if Will Levis was able to do that this past year. So, do I trust him, Will? I'm hesitant to say yes. My hope is this. If you do get Cam Ward, if you do get Shedeur Sanders, are you in a position to actually be here for multiple years to coach those guys up too? That's my only contingency I'm saying. Coach Callahan deserves his quarterback. I don't know, based upon what last year's offense looked like, we got to go off what we've seen. I don't know if he's going to have the time to make him into a Peyton Manning or the other a Joe Burrow that we've seen. And it may actually be, to this point in year 1, for Shedeur or Cam, it may have to rely upon their own abilities. Meaning when Joe Burrow, the most recent one he's been around, Joe Burrow became Joe Burrow because he was good, right? He found guys in tight windows. And that's the question that I have for a Cam Ward if he's here or Shedeur too.
Yeah, I mean, that's to be determined because we haven't seen it yet with the quarterback that was here in Will Levis. That is something I think that people are still skeptical about because Brian Callahan came here for primarily the reason that he was going to bring more of an offensive-minded look to this Titans team, and he was going to be able to develop a quarterback. Now, look, we don't know what happened behind the scenes in terms of, hey, you're going to have to fix Will. If you don't, that's fine. We'll let you get your quarterback later on, but you're going to at least try, right? Because he was a 2nd-round pick. We're going to at least try to salvage him. It didn't work out. And I do believe with all the interviews he's done, especially the most recent one with Easton Freeze, he talked a lot about how he prides himself in developing quarterbacks. He keeps going back to that notion. And so I keep thinking in the back of my head, he can do this. He just needs somewhat of a guy that he can work with that I think is not a head case. And I'm not saying Will Levis is a bad person, but I don't know if he's wired correctly in terms of being able to handle this league. And I do think that if you go with a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward, I think that they already are one up in that category. And I'm going to stay on the Cam Ward hill because that's where I started. But I do feel like if worse comes to worse with Cam Ward and you don't have Brian Callahan here a year after next, he has gone through so many different offenses and been able to pick up the schemes, been able to, do the work, be in the film room, and do all the right things to succeed every single place he's been with a new offensive coordinator. So that at least if that happened, you had a type of personality that has been able to handle it in the past and probably could do it at the NFL level too.
Only pushback is Will Levis has had 4 different offenses too, and he hasn't adjusted. So I don't know if it's student or teacher when it comes down to these type of, conversations.
Will Levis had one successful year at Kentucky.
Liam Cohen. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there. It just, to me, when we're talking about differences of offenses, like I said, mine is as it pertains to Coach Callahan. Can you actually get that also in those guys' mind on what you want this offense to look like? Because to be real with you, I don't know what it looks like. So initially, Will, because I think people enjoy good challenges, to circle back to the original questions, can Callahan do it? I'm going to say no, just to start it off. No, I don't.
You got to be really confident that he is the guy before you draft that guy's favorite quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But if he's not the guy and you had any doubts, you should have fired him last year with Rand.
I agree.
Sorry.
Totally agree.
I'm sorry. If you really think that he's not the guy, then he should have been gone.
Yeah, totally.
So they clearly think he's still the guy.
Maybe.
To be able to do
Coach
this.
Brian Callahan, it is.
Right.
Yeah. And to pick, if they don't have a trade partner, to pick one of these quarterbacks, number one, that's heavy. That's very heavy. But what I will say is this, too. Whether it's Coach Callahan and this quarterback, whichever one they choose over the next 10 years, I do think this. Either one of these guys can be flexible enough for either type of offense, unless, as far as a pro-style offense, too. It's a matter of figuring out what they're good at and honing in on that too, and how much can they process, because there will be an adjustment. Nobody wants to let the NFL see a Jaden Daniels 2.0.
And we might not even see that first round pick right away. I really still am convinced if they figure out we do need to go with a quarterback at 1, we are still going to get a bridge guy in here and see that we have backup, or we can just let that bridge guy start. And let's give our quarterback some time. Because, again, let's not forget where Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker came from as well. They were in a system that, those quarterbacks sat for a minute. And it wasn't the end of the world.
Shane writes it on YouTube and says, how many games does Callahan have to win in year 2 to deserve to stick around for a year 3?
7.
Great question, right?
7.
I think you at least have to win more than what you did this year.
Sure, 6 or 7.
You're going to have to do better.
Yeah.
5 would be the floor. But again, how do you get to those wins, right? If your offense is averaging 24 points per game and now you just can't stop a nosebleed on defense, then, yeah, maybe you could win 5 games and retain your job. You just have to get a new defensive coordinator. That's the struggle in answering that question on February the 3rd without knowing how they get to those wins. Do you have a rookie quarterback who throws 20 picks? Okay, well, do they do enough good things to where you can still believe in the process? They're just throwing 20 picks. I don't know.
And then there's this, the black eyes. It's 2 black eyes you're facing next year too, or black clouds. That is one, Houston, because that game always means a whole lot over the history of what we've said. Okay, about this front office ownership and all those types of things. Can you stack up with that one? And the other one is Vrabel coming back to Nashville.
I love that. I'm looking so forward to that.
I'm glad you are. I don't know if maybe I'm shook.
I'm not a fan of the team. I cover the team, so
no, I'm not.
I'm all about it.
I just don't know, Kayla, how it's gonna go. That's my only thing. It's
not our problem.
It's immediately having your boo thing come back in, and now she's driving a Ferrari. It's just wait. We were just in the band.
John Calipari going back to Rupp and winning over the weekend? Well, we'll get to that soon.
This is what happens when you reset every year. And you have instability. And now you're hoping you have that stability with the new front office. Because, again, I truly feel like it starts from the front office down. You have got to start having some stability in the front office to have that trickle down. And that has not happened here.
And I don't think there's a lot of stability in drafting either of these quarterbacks with the number 1 overall pick.
There might not be.
So if Mel Kiper says that someone's going to overdraft either of those 2 quarterbacks in the top 5 because of QB supply and demand, I don't think the Titans are in the position to overdraft anyone. I think the Titans are in the best position today to draft the best player available for them to pick, because they got to put somebody's name and somebody's face up on new Nissan Stadium when it opens. They cannot afford to have no elite players other than Jeffrey Simmons when that new stadium opens, the best way to do that is by not overdrafting somebody when you finally get a pick that allows you to pick an elite player.
Yeah, I know. It's
the more I hear about these quarterbacks, I was in on Shedeur Sanders. I'm a little more out than I was just from hearing people who are a lot smarter than me, who can watch film and diagnose things way smarter than I can. And I think Cam Ward has a great ceiling. I think Cam Ward, if the Titans could fast forward a year, would be a great pick. I really do. I just don't trust this coach in this system and this scheme to not break him. Because
So
I've
you're
watched
more about the
quarterbacks
coach
get
breaking it.
broken time and time again. I just don't think it's the right situation for him to walk into.
Yeah,
Cam
and
Ward.
it's hard to walk into any situation with these teams that are looking for a quarterback right now. Look, they're all crap teams.
Exactly.
That's why they're in the front of the
And
draft.
that's why many of them keep picking in the top 5 as
Right.
well.
But there is a scenario here, though, where Cam or Shedeur could sit because they're willing to go get a bridge quarterback. They've said that.
Right. But then you give up the opportunity to have an elite pass rusher.
Yeah.
Or Travis Hunter. And then we're waiting 2 to 3 years to find out whether or not that pick was even the right one or not.
That's why it's a tough time to be number one right now this year.
Oh, it's the worst year to be the number one overall
It's a
pick
tough time to be number one.
in recent memory.
If you could trade for any other year, you probably would.
Yeah.
As a
100%.
comment in our YouTube chat, Natasha was just like, but y'all thought Will Levis was draftable. We're talking about two different things.
What are we talking? No.
We're talking
Apples
about
and oranges.
two totally different things. Like draftable, heck yes. Cam Ward and
he's
Shedeur, I think as far as where they're projected, is far and above what Will Levis was at this time,
Yeah.
okay? That's two. What we're talking about is the ability to be successful here in Tennessee with what's in front of you.
Yeah.
You got to think. You still got to figure out the right side of the offensive line plus the center, right? You have minimal weapons. Calvin Ridley and the best playmaker that you have right now, and Nick Westbrook-Akine is a free agent. You got 2 tight ends. Let's go Chig and Josh Wiley that may be weapons, may not be weapons. And you got 2 running backs. Like, that's what you're talking about when you're asking yourself, what can you do? What Washington had was Scary Terry, Brian Robinson. They had somewhat an offensive line that come together, and they also found the right play caller and Cliff Kingsbury to make it work. We're talking about a direct effect of Coach Brian Callahan being a play caller, teacher, Mr. Miyagi.
That's the other thing. He's the play caller too, you guys, and he's
So
not giving that up according to him.
No, I wouldn't either, because he gives that up. He got to fire himself too. Like, that was his calling card, is he's the playmaker. He's the play caller too. So my thing is this. Yes, Cam and Shedeur are both better, I think, than what Will Levis was projected to be. The issue is, and we don't talk about this enough, what system is going to work, what weapons are going to be good for him, because Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick. His career doesn't look like he's the number 1 overall pick because of setup, right? We thought, of course, Caleb Williams was going to be set up perfectly in Chicago. Head coach was an issue, it seems like. His maturity seems to be an issue, and it just hasn't worked out for a guy like him. And his offensive line turned out to be problematic, too. Like, the system, the situation has to be a part of the equation. It doesn't just mean, hey, draft him and you're going to be successful. No, it don't happen like that. Let's not look at Jaden Daniels, in my opinion, situation and say, yeah, Cam and Shedeur immediately is going to be that. To that point we were talking about earlier, Cam and Shedeur aren't the athlete that Jaden Daniels is what we're saying. You got an extra playmaker with the legs of Jaden Daniels, and I don't think you get this out of these guys.
It's funny. I think Cam Ward is almost more like Caleb Williams out of all those guys in terms of their skill sets as quarterbacks.
I think Patrick's not that athletic either. Patrick's not like Jaden Daniels. Like,
Patrick
he's athletic,
Mahomes.
but he's not sitting there.
The arm is the biggest part of his athleticism.
Exactly.
Right.
So for me, when it's all said and done, guys, when it comes to Brian Callahan, can he develop one of these guys, specifically a Cam Ward? The jury's still out on that because he hasn't proven it here as the head coach, as the play caller, and his quarterbacks room in terms of the coaches haven't proved it yet either. Bo Hardigree is still here. He's part of this equation too, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. 615-737-1045. We got an interesting question on YouTube. Who was the last number 1 overall pick to not start right away at quarterback? I found the answer to that, and it's a bit surprising. Plus, would love to get your reaction. Are you ready for the Titans to draft a quarterback? Are you okay with them maybe overdrafting one of these two guys? 615-737-1045 as we continue hour 2 next.
Hey, Nashville is one of the best cities to live in the country. Plenty of options here. Sometimes so many that it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially when it comes to choosing a local real estate agent that you can trust. That's why you need to check out my friend Bernie Gallerani. Look, Bernie Gallerani, he has years of experience to go along with that, a proven track record, and he's not going to let you down. In fact, he's going to guarantee to sell your home in 30 days or less, or shoot, he's just going to buy it from you. Buying your first home, like I said, can be overwhelming, but Bernie Gallerani Real Estate doesn't have the things to put you in that kind of a position. They're going to help you. Thomas recently shared his excitement about watching his son purchase his first home with the help of this outstanding team. From the very first contact, really, the team impressed him with their knowledge, professionalism, and dedication to making the process smooth and stress-free. And the company's organization and exceptional communication make sure that he is always going to feel informed and confident throughout the process. Look, Bernie is the only real estate agent in Nashville recommended by Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank, the only agent I would trust to sell my home. So give him a call on his cell phone, 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644, or go to BernieGallerani.com.
RKW 104.5, The Zone continues in hour number 2. Open for your reaction at 615-737-1045. Do you think the Titans are ready to draft a quarterback? And if not, where do you go? 615-737-1045 is the number. Talking about quarterback sitting immediately. Guys, we got a question on YouTube that said, when is the last time a number 1 overall pick QB did not start right away? Do you guys know who that was? Because I did not until I searched it.
Last time a number 1 overall didn't. Luck.
No, I think Andrew Luck started right away. I can double check that. I had not confirmed either direction on him. I've got it in front of me. No, number 1 overall pick.
Number 1 overall pick.
Number 1 overall.
Well, I ain't got a clue on that
dude.
one, man.
Andrew Luck started 16 games in 2012 as a rookie.
Okay. Good question.
Started right away. Lost to Chicago his first week. So it's funny. The first one was actually, wasn't it a contract dispute with Jamarcus Russell, who hadn't signed yet in 07? So 2007 was the last time a quarterback drafted number 1 overall did not start right away. So then if you want to go beyond that, 05 Alex Smith in San Francisco.
I believe Baker Mayfield didn't start.
Oh.
He didn't start week 1 or 2.
There you go. All right, Baker Mayfield. My bad. Again, I assumed he had and was working my way down all of these through the break. But there you go.
Yeah, it's a good point. It doesn't happen often, right? I mean, there are quarterbacks that sit that are mid first round, but number 1 overall, you just don't see it that often.
So he sat 2 weeks.
He
Baker
did
Mayfield,
sit 2
you're right.
weeks.
Started week 3 against the Jets on September 20th.
Was that planned for him to sit those 2, or was that something
believe so.
like there was?
It had to have been. Yeah, it had to have been. Did not play. He was inactive, it looks like almost. Well, it's got did not play on there. And that was a tie game, too. Oh, my God.
Against Pittsburgh.
Against Pittsburgh.
You played in that game.
I did play in that game. I had just come back from a hyperextended knee that game. Nuts. Happened in training camp.
And he might not have played in week 3 if Tyrod Taylor wouldn't have got injured. So he didn't even start that game. Tyrod Taylor started it, got injured in the game, and then he relieved him.
There you go.
And started off was win, loss, win. Then 4 straight losses. So
Mayfield became the first player since Fran Tarkenton in 1961 to come off the bench in a debut, throw for more than 200 yards, and lead his team to the first win of the season.
There you go.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
So how long are you willing to wait if you take a quarterback number 1 overall? Because it is very rare that you take a QB with the first overall pick and don't play them right away.
I'd say like 6-7 games.
Mine is usually a month. Give him first 4 weeks, a quarter of the season, so he can see what the week-to-week schedule is like, and whether it's 4 to 6 weeks, Kayla. I mean, it depends upon when the coach will think they're ready. But I would say a month is where you give guys in this era if you're going to sit them. I'd like to say, man, week 10, but what if the team is really rolling at that point?
Sure.
Or what if they really suck and then you throw them in and it's even worse for them? What you don't want is to ruin them early.
I just think the tricky part is, like, if you're going into a draft saying, I don't want to start my number 1 overall pick QB right away, then you shouldn't be taking that QB number 1 overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad argument. And that's the thing that the Titans really have to figure out, because I think that's something that is very a good point, because really, you're number 1 overall. You don't get this spot very often. And look, they could think that this quarterback could start right away. But for most of us, we're thinking at this point, they probably, these 2 quarterbacks would need to sit for a second. And if you want a guy that's a generational talent or whatever the words that they're using, the buzzwords, you want that guy to have an impact day 1. And so for the Titans, especially when they need so many holes to fill, you need holes to fill and those guys to produce right away.
I think it's circumstantial. I don't know if he'd be ready to start here week 1. Just on the basis of so much that these young guys have to deal with coming into it. I'm of the mindset as far as a quarterback, you can give them as much time as you want them, because all we've heard about the ones that have it, like Patrick Mahomes, was they absolutely murdered the scout teams in practice, right? Like, how can they handle camp? How can they go on, like, reading the script and also making plays and the extra after practice as far as studying and breaking down the defenses. Like, we don't know where these guys are going to be as it pertains to that, too. So I'm not opposed to sitting guys. Like, having J.C. Latham start as early as he did, yeah, it's good, but like this trial by fire era, I mean, it could really throw you for a loop considering he started off well, and then the next thing you know, as far as J.C. Latham goes, he tailed off bad towards the end because from the moment they start summer camp in college, there is no break all the way through. So the rookie wall is for that reason right there. They're about to be grilled as far as the combine goes, pre-draft visits, interviews, marketing. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. So give them a second to breathe is the way I look at it. The quarterback position is mostly how I look at that.
And that's what we don't know with this new, that's the thing. That's a whole new front office for the most part, besides Chad Brinker. And so are they just like, we're going to do things our way? We don't give a damn what the league thinks about. We have to draft a number 1 overall guy that's going to start right away. Like, we have to continue to follow the breadcrumbs that they kind of leave along this process of what they truly want to do. Because no one's going to come out there and say any of that. You know, like, oh, yeah, we're going to sit that guy and we're okay with it. We have to kind of see how everything adds up. And that's what's the beauty of having the number 1 overall pick and for our show every day, because it's something different that we're putting together. But it is a good question.
Jared Goff, another example of a guy that was actually drafted number 1 and didn't start right away. Case Keenum ahead of him. So I'll take the L on that one. But still, I think the point still stands. None of those guys were successful where they were drafted. No. I mean, they're extenuating circumstances, but I still have pause at drafting a quarterback number 1 that I'm not willing to just throw out there. 615-737-1045 is our number. Some breaking news out of Knoxville this morning. There is a change on Josh Heupel's football staff. We'll give you that news when we come back. Plus, the reaction to the college basketball weekend that lived up to the hype, especially in Knoxville for 7 scholarship players against 5th-ranked Florida. We'll dive into all that next.
Is your concrete in need of repair? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting, your driveway is cracked and sinking, or your porch steps, maybe they've moved on you. Shifting concrete can create a dangerous situation, trip hazard around your home. It's just also a big eyesore. It's Ramon Foster, and what is going on with your concrete? Guess what? You can call United Structural Systems. Ask them about the polyurethane foam injections. You've heard about USS for a long time also. They're the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. Well, guess what? They can fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injections to lift and repair your sinking concrete in just a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete can be walked on immediately or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. Reach out to the folks that I trust. All right, you can go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or call them 615-488-7855. United Structural Systems.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Coaching staff in the NFL and college football taking shape as Chip Kelly named the new offensive coordinator in Las Vegas. Kelly spent the past 7 years in college football, including last season as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for the national champion Ohio State, which averaged 35.7 points a game in going 14-2. Ohio State has lost 3 key assistants this offseason. Chip Kelly headed to the Raiders. Defensive coordinator Jim Knowles headed to Penn State, and their offensive line coach Justin Fry headed to the Arizona Cardinals. And a couple of coordinators go back to the NFL. Another one comes down to the college ranks as Alabama, hiring former Seahawks OC Ryan Grubb as its new offensive coordinator. Grubb reunites with Kalen DeBoer, who he was with at Washington and essentially his entire coaching career. In the NBA, we were all consumed with the trade of Luka Doncic this weekend to the Lakers, a second superstar on the move as De'Aaron Fox shipped from Sacramento to San Antonio to be paired with Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs are currently 2 games back from the 10th seed in the West. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW 104.5 The Zone rolls into the second half on your Monday morning. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in with Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. I'm Will Bowling. We'll be joined by Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, coming up in 20 minutes. We'll get his thoughts on one of the best Senior Bowl rosters ever assembled. I know the quarterbacks took a lot of the headlines, but some linemen and some pass catchers the Titans could very well be very interested in. 615-737-1045 is our number. And some breaking news out of Knoxville this morning. Mike Eckler, Tennessee special teams coach, is headed back home. He will join Matt Rule's staff at Nebraska. So a bit of a surprise, but not a major shock, as VolQuest.com reports that Eckler had a desire to be closer to his family, the former Nebraska player, and also linebackers coach from 2008 to 2010, says his parents still live in Nebraska and wants to be closer to his family, leading to this decision. So the first change for Josh Heupel's coaching staff will be at special teams.
Mm-hmm. I ain't mad at that. I mean, he's got reasoning behind it. I'm sure Tennessee tried to get a contract that could work for a guy like him. More than anything, man, I thought it was a jolt of energy on the sideline. He was visible, component on game day. He did everything that you wanted those guys to do as far as excitement. Special team coaches are wired that way. So being given the opportunity to go back home in a similar role, and they're buzzing right now. They got Patrick Mahomes Jr. there too, so that always plays a part in that side of things. So, hey, next coach up is the way I view this one.
Yeah, this is going to happen, right? There's going to be situations in college football, especially nowadays, where you're going to have staff leave. You're going to have opportunities that better them. And really, when it comes down to it, I just feel like, I'm not saying this isn't an important position, because it is. It always is. Special teams is always important. But I think, for the most part, Josh Heupel's staff has been kept intact. The big names, the defensive coordinator, those are things that, you're now secure in. So it is a loss, but overall, I think it could have been maybe worse.
And Tennessee's outside linebackers are coached by Mike Eckler as well. So they're going to have to find an outside linebackers coach and a special teams coach.
Oh,
so he was doing both.
Outside linebacker. They got so many analysts on staff. I was just about to text somebody right now.
I wonder if that'll be a promotion for a former roommate of Ramon Foster's and Robert Ayers.
That would be awesome if it was, man.
We'll see.
We'll see, but tough loss. More than anything, he's a visible coach to me. I don't know what his recruiting is like. I don't know any of those things as far as his own campus and staff works, but I just know him because of the amount of energy he brings.
Sure, and you need that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Special teams.
100%.
Tennessee 64, Florida 44. The Vols with 7 scholarship players on Saturday afternoon in Knoxville beat the 5th-ranked team in the country. Rick Barnes is very specific on the praise that he gives his team. Said after the game, I told them it was one of the great wins we have ever had here. According to Ken Palm, Florida is the 5th most efficient offense in the country. They average 85 points per game. Prior to Saturday, Florida had not been held under 60 points all season and had only been held under 80 4 times all year. They scored 44 on Saturday. Todd Golden postgame says, if you had told me we held Tennessee to 64, I would have thought we had a decent chance to win this game, and we were not close. Jemai Mashack was outstanding. Jordan Gainey was terrific at point guard. 1 turnover in 37 minutes. Added 16 points, 5 assists, and Chaz Lanier got the 3-point shot going again, 19 points. He was 5 of 9 from 3. Man, it felt good to see Tennessee go to the basket and finish at the rim.
Yes, 100%, man. And of course, man, Felix Okpara protecting the rim. Him and my guy, man, Cade Phillips, are monsters around the court. It was good seeing those dudes play ball like that. Florida's big man, they attempted to time and time again to. I saw their coach. I don't know their head coach.
Todd Golden.
Todd Golden. They had their big man go down into the paint and body. He ended up bodying Felix Okpara, and the coach was just doing a run it back. He was telling him run it back, and he did. And then the third time down, they adjusted. He ended up missing a shot, and then I think they ended up getting a turnover soon after that. Their ability this past weekend to adjust and play with a less than team, meaning no Zakai Ziegler, I think Will brought that up, and no Igor Milicic also, who had flu-like symptoms. I went into the stadium, TBA, to be honest with you, this weekend. I was like, what the hell is Zakai? A little bit, somewhat nervous, but Jordan Gainey has proven his worth time and time again. His ability to command that offense and play defense and hit the open shot when it's there was awesome. They generated turnovers this past weekend. Watching role players, and I mean role players with a whole lot of respect, but Darlin Stone Dubar being one of those guys. Cade Phillips to come in off the bench, and you got to give it up also to the young man, Bishop Boswell. He didn't do a whole lot, but he played his role as it pertains to giving Gainey a breather, playing defense. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if that was him on that Cade Phillips lob that he threw up. But again, everybody played their role, and it was topped off, of course, by having what's the name, Chaz Lanier transition threes. When he's on and shooting into the ocean, the team is unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, they went into this. Probably a lot of people thinking when they saw that Ziegler and Milicic weren't on, the floor, like, oh, dang. Like, this is a pretty good Florida team coming in here, and I know it's not at their place, and it is in Tennessee, but easily could have this Tennessee team thrown in the towel and said, oh, we don't got our guys, right? We're already kind of a little bit depleted in the roster in terms of depth, and we kind of feel defeated after this loss. But instead, even with a slow start, for this Tennessee team, they figured a way to flip on the light switch. And that's what I do love about a Rick Barnes team. The toughness, the grittiness that this team was able to play with on Saturday when they're down 2 of their biggest players against a good Florida team, and was able to switch it like, we're going to play to what we do best, our defense. And what they were able to do in terms of limiting Florida, I mean, 24.5% from the field, 14.8% from three-point land. Like, they played their game, and they didn't just beat them. They beat them by 20.
Gator Mike on the phone, 615-737-1045. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. I told you I would step into the paint, Ramon, on Monday.
Respects, Gator Mike.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it's hot lemon pepper or I'm doing the Oklahoma drill against Ramon in a football camp. But I was like, and then what made it worse is I'm scrolling Twitter and I see Ramon's at the gate. So I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, you're right. It was almost like when Tennessee went to Florida. It's like the worst game of the year. I mean, and credit Tennessee's defense. Walter Clayton was the only guard that could do anything. If you look back through, Will Richard played 37 minutes, only took 2 shots. Elijah Martin didn't get his first basket till like 5 minutes to go in the game. So they did a good job there. But again, our guards weren't doing what they normally do, is take it to the basket.
Right.
It was like Barnes made that good. Oh, come on. No, I mean, that's what I said. Credit Tennessee, because they were forcing our big men to make plays, and then Tennessee adjusted.
That's Robert
Bert,
back there.
man.
We don't have this. Ramon and I's hands we're up in the air.
Yeah. It's all Bert. I get it, Bert. That's cool. No, but credit Tennessee. Like I said, I said I would call, win or lose.
Yeah.
And it's just a crazy year in basketball. I mean, you look at all the top 25 teams that lost on Saturday. I mean, even that Arkansas-Kentucky game. I mean, who even saw that coming? You know what I mean? Like,
Truth.
It's just such a great year.
It is. Thank you, Gator Mike. We appreciate the call.
Thanks for calling in, though. At least
Well
you
done.
stood on business.
Respect.
Yeah, to his point, their point guard off the bench, man, Denzel Aberdeen, he actually had more of a jolt to that Florida offense than anybody. His ability to get through the paint this past weekend, I thought was really good. He came in and immediately gave them a spark. It's just that they didn't have enough. You forced them out, and the turnovers around the perimeter that the Vols generated, as far as Meshack, Gainey, and even Chaz. Good defense this past weekend, man. It was good.
Yeah, totally.
Sure.
And with Walter Clayton Jr. with the did it roll? I didn't see the replay of it if you saw it, but he slipped and he blamed it on his ankle. And I was just like, okay, all right. Like, I guess he felt the loss coming on.
It was a legitimate slip. It wasn't I don't think he was faking
we haven't
anything.
heard that in a while.
Okay, it was a legit thing. I don't ever want to question nobody being injured.
Yeah, sure.
But he slipped and he grabbed his ankle. I was just like, is it just water on the ground? Why are you hurting right now?
I almost felt like, though, it was like Florida was playing like Tennessee did against Kentucky. Like nothing was going their way, right?
Good. Good. Absolutely good.
We'll talk about that Arkansas-Kentucky game later in this hour as well, because very interesting reception and very interesting game in Lexington. Oklahoma Vandy, also the other big headline in SEC hoops over the weekend. Oklahoma shot 73% in the second half against Vanderbilt. What? They outscored Vandy 61-27 in the second half, took a halftime deficit, and beat the Commodores 97-67.
Yeah.
Anything can happen on the road in the SEC.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Coming up, Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl. He'll join us coming up next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson and Ramon Foster with Window Nation. We are back, baby, and so is the weird weather in Tennessee. Whether it's cold or hot, one thing is for sure, you all probably want a window that's keeping the energy and the cost inside your home, and the cost down, I should say. 60% off all window styles right now, plus pay nothing for no interest for 2 years. And Moan, February, you could miss Groundhog Day, President's Day, and even Valentine's Day, but don't miss your chance from Window Nation to save, like I said, 60% off all the window styles.
No doubt about it. And experts say it's going to get even worse also, Kayla, this spring as far as the weather and the energy going up, man. You want a long-term solution to save you money. Replace your cold, drafty windows with energy-efficient ones from Window Nation. As Kayla just told you, you got to hurry. The sale ends February 28th, all right? Don't overpay for expensive windows that may not be as good, all right? Schedule a free, no-obligation, in-home consultation now with the pros at Window Nation. Simply call them at 866-90-NATION or go online, windownation.com.
RKW 104.5 The Zone continues this morning in studio. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling. Pleased to be joined by the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, the man who put together quite a roster and quite a game over the weekend. He is Jim Nagy, who joins us now after a very busy week. Jim, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Well, first of all, we got to give you your flowers and your credit, man. You guys, from everything we've read, from people we've talked to, the consensus for months was that you guys had put together maybe one of the best Senior Bowl rosters ever. So first, congrats to you and on a job very well done last week.
No, thank you. No, it means a lot. And they, I mean, I think they're the best rosters, but not trying to be boastful. And they should be. We can bring juniors now. So if we don't have the best rosters and you're opening us up to all the juniors, then we're not doing our jobs right. So, no, they were great rosters. The great part was, like, a lot of those guys we thought were coming down here as first rounders performed well, and a lot of guys that were maybe a little more down the line, surprised us and had great weeks and helped themselves a ton. That's what Senior Bowl Week's all about.
Well, Jim, let's start there then. Who were some of the guys that you felt like may have been pleasant surprises who helped themselves the most last week?
A lot of the offensive linemen, a lot of the talk going into the week was how good the defensive line group was, and that played itself out. You had guys like Marshall's Mike Green and Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. I mean, there were some really good performances on the defensive line as well. Landon Jackson from Arkansas had a great game in the game. But some of the O-linemen, Gray Zabel was from North Dakota State. Shocker that a Bison offensive lineman comes down here and has a great week. I mean, it seems like it happens every other year. And, the way we do our player awards is they vote on each other, the position group that goes up against them. So O-line votes on D-line and whatnot. But when we do the overall practice player of the week, I send a text to a front office guy of all 32 teams, and they hit me back. And Zabel was on like 28 of the 32 votes. I mean, I just asked for the top three guys, and that's incredible to be on, almost every single ballot. So he had a great week. Olufemi Oladejo from UCLA might have helped himself more than anybody in the game in terms of like what he did on the field he had a great week in practice. He was practice player of the week. He has 2 sacks in the game, and then he wins. We have a good guy award for the guy that's just like in and around the hotel and in the locker room. That's just like the easiest guy, the best energy. And Femi was that guy too. So those are just a handful of guys.
Oh, doubt what you. When we look at this past week, too, you look at these guys that you mentioned, the offensive line, like Jonah Monheim, didn't know anything about him out of Southern Cal. Gray Zabel had no idea. And also Anthony Belton. Did you have an idea when it comes down to, like, these guys can make a lot of money? Because I thought they did this past weekend.
Yeah, Ramon, I mean, Zabel we really liked, but there's always that little, shadow of a doubt. The last box those small school guys have to check is what it's going to look like against, power conference players. So we did like Gray Zabel a bunch. We had Cody Malk in the game a couple years ago from North Dakota State, who I thought was the only 5-position offensive lineman in that draft. And I kind of feel like Gray's really like the only guy in this class that I think could probably start at about any position on the line. So I think he got himself in the first round. I think Anthony Belton is a guy that I haven't seen a bunch in the media yet. I thought he played out of his mind. I thought that's the best I've ever seen Anthony Belton look. He's a big 360-pound man, and he's like a naturally heavy guy. When people get into him, they can't move him. I mean, his anchor is unbelievable, and he's got really light feet. Usually those things don't work hand in hand. So, Anthony helped himself a ton. He looked like a starting left tackle in the league. So, those are the fun ones, man. Like you see a lot of talent on the tape. Sometimes it's up and down. Like Anthony Belton is not a guy that you're seeing in a lot of these mock drafts. And he performed like a first or second round draft pick all week down here.
No doubt. Jim Nagy, Senior Bowl director's with us today. Jim, also, I left Mobile saying, okay, I know Tyler Warren out of Penn State, the tight end, is probably number one. But I viewed Elijah Arroyo and also Mason Taylor as some really good prospect. And I also left this weekend saying Elijah Arroyo, the tight end out of Miami, may have edged Mason Taylor to me. How did you view that matchup with those two individuals?
Yeah, Ramon, I mean, to me, it's those three guys, and then Colson Loveland from Michigan are pretty unquestionably the top 4 tight ends in this draft, I think, for most teams. Arroyo had an unbelievable week. You know, to me, he's the best field stretcher of all those guys. It's depending on what you're looking for. Like Tyler Warren had an unbelievable year at Penn State, but he's not the downfield threat of Arroyo. So depending on how your team, you know, what your offense is and how your team, the composition of your team right now, Arroyo could be the first tight end off the board if you're looking for a guy that can get down the seam and stretch the field. So, and the cool thing was it showed up here all week. And then Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's son, is a favorite of mine because he can do everything. You know, he can block, he can catch, he can run routes, he can get open, and he had a great week as well. Those were the 2 tight ends of the week voted on by their teammates.
Yep.
Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, joining us now on RKW as we put a bow on the Senior Bowl this past weekend. Obviously, I watched the game, Jim, and I just want you to speak about the young man who caught the game-winning touchdown for the American team. What a moment for Zach Besh right there, losing his, brother just so early on, weeks before that in that tragedy in New Orleans. But this guy isn't here for the sympathy vote. Like, he's a good player. I know the Titans are looking for maybe a slot receiver. What can you tell us about this young man?
It was an unbelievable week, Kayla. And it happened, obviously, the terror attack in New Orleans on January 1st, and then our game was on February 1st. So what a month Jack has had. Yeah, what's getting lost in the story, and it's an unbelievable story, is what a good football player this is. I think he's a day 2 player. He's one of my favorite receivers in this draft. And then, he's been through a lot. We were, all the guys were wearing helmet stickers to honor his brother, Tiger, who was number 7, and Jack's player of the week, voted on by his peers. And then in the game, he gets that walk-off touchdown. Maybe the best Super Bowl or Senior Bowl ending ever in a Senior Bowl. I mean, a walk-off touchdown in that fashion. And for his brother wore number 7 at Princeton. There were 7 seconds left on the clock when the ball was snapped. The ball is thrown by a Memphis Tiger quarterback, Seth Hennigan. It was storybook stuff. It was Hollywood stuff. And the cool part is we've got a group down here doing a Senior Bowl Hard Knocks this year, the same group that did the Giants Hard Knocks last spring. They captured everything. They captured the moments on the field. I mean, if you guys were watching the other day, credit Rhett Lewis and those guys in the booth, DJ, they didn't talk over that moment, and Jack was embracing his family. And I was down there with them, and they hugged for about 2 minutes. And when that family separated, everyone had tears rolling down their faces. And Jack and I had a big hug on the field as well, and just a really special deal. And for people that didn't get to see it and want to know more about the story in Jack's family and his perseverance through all this, Tom Rinaldi was in town this past week and and so are the Fox crews, and they taped some practice. And there's going to be a story about the Besh family on the Super Bowl pregame show on Sunday, filmed here in Mobile. So yeah, what that family's had to go through over the last month is incredible, and that was just an unbelievable way to end the week for Jack.
Yeah, incredible. You can't even say if there's more words probably to describe it, but yeah, that's what I would say too, Jim. When it comes to the edge position there this last week, Titans also in the mode to possibly get somebody at the edge position. Who stood out to you? Who maybe lived up to what they were brought there to do?
Well, I brought up Landon Jackson's name, and I really appreciate Landon's week because, he's a big, long, he's like 6'6", 275 pounds. You can line him up anywhere, and, he didn't have a good first day. He got stoned multiple times by some of these tackles we're talking about, like Anthony Belton, and he was a little better on Wednesday, and he had a really good Thursday practice, really high energy. You could just feel it. You could feel him out on the field more on Wednesday than any day on Thursday. I mean, and then he plays great in the game, and then there's guys like Donovan Izaraku from Boston College, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, had 16.5 sacks, had a good week down here. So that was really, we kind of felt it going into the week that was going to be our strongest position group, and it kind of played itself out that way.
Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Jim, I know you had put on Twitter 2 years ago that Mike Borgonzi was someone who should get more looks as an NFL general manager. The Titans give him that opportunity. Just for someone you have known in your career as an NFL executive, what do you like about Mike, and what has really proven to you that he is ready for a role like this one here in Tennessee?
Yeah, Borgo and I go way back. He was we were in Kansas City together, and he was his first NFL job. And we just, I knew right away that he was wired right. First of all, his work ethic is off the charts, And the cool thing about Mike, he's this Ivy League guy, and not to knock Ivy Leaguers, but sometimes they let you know it right away what school they went to. Like, you would know Mike for 5 years, you wouldn't know he went to an Ivy League school, so I credit him for that. But he's an unbelievable worker, really sharp guy, obviously, with his background. Just a real football guy. He's been there so long. He got kept on in that Kansas City staff, and I got let go. A bunch of us got let go. But he stayed on, and he learned under Andy Reid, and was a part of all that winning. So I think it was a great hire. I thought it was long overdue. There's been a lot of guys in these GM cycles get hired ahead of Mike the last couple of years. There were head scratchers to me. So I saw him down here in Mobile. He was here. We got to catch up quite a bit, and just really happy for he and Jill and the family. It was the right hire. I'm excited for what he's going to do. It's a heavy lift, what they have in Tennessee right now. There's no doubt about that. But I think Chad Brinker got the right guy.
Well, Jim, at the quarterback position down there in Mobile, you had Jackson Dart, who's getting a lot of praise, and rightfully so, for the performances he put together. Jalen Milroe, you mentioned Seth Hennigan. I know Shuck from Louisville did a lot of good things as well. It was voted one of the premier players from the week. With Jackson Dart specifically, how do you kind of take away a guy like that who had a lot of open throws in that Lane Kiffin system, but also has a lot of experience, has won a lot of football games? What do you like about him that projects to the next level?
All that stuff you just mentioned. He's played a lot of football. He's got good size. He's really athletic. I mean, the guy can really move around. He can make plays when he's running around. He can do things that you don't draw up. And what he showed here during the week is just being in more of a pro-style offense, being able to function in that as well. So, yeah, he is a guy. Again, it's not like he's some guy that came out of nowhere, right? Like, we all know Jackson Dart's name. He's been a great college player for 3 years in Oxford. So, and he's been through stuff. But Jackson and I had a chance to talk about his move from USC, where he started as a true freshman, kid from Utah, going down to L.A. Things didn't happen great his second year. He transfers, all the way across the country into SEC country, and just takes his career to a different level. In the NFL's look, I really felt like last year's draft cycle was the first year where the teams were really trying to dial down on like the grittiness of quarterbacks more so than like just the intelligence and just the physical tools. They were really looking at, okay, what have these guys been through? Like, what have they overcome before? So Jackson's got some of that too. So it's not going to surprise me if he ends up in the first round. I'm not saying he's there yet. It certainly won't surprise me in this draft class if he ends up there in April.
Senior Bowl's Jim Nagy with us this morning doing a recap with us. Jim, Will and Kayla were asking me last week, what did I take away from like the practices, or what's the one line that I took away from the Senior Bowl talent? And the one thing I said is, I don't think you can really miss with the talent that was down there. And not just that, but like specifically on the D-line, I can almost name every single guy on this, at least on the American side, that I looked at and said they did something. Deion Walker impressed me out of Kentucky, the big D lineman. Walter Nolan did exactly what you needed him to do. Omar Norman Lott from UT was generating buzz also, and I could go on. Jim, how deep is this class as far as teams like the Titans looking to build up their roster across the board?
It is the deepest D-line class we've had, and I can only speak to the last 7 years that I've been at the Senior Bowl. It's the deepest D-line class, and thank God we got the vast majority of those guys. We had great buy-in from that position group across the board. So yeah, those guys you mentioned. Unfortunately, Norman Lott had a little bit of a neck thing in the middle of the week. He's going to be fine, but I mean, the first day he came out, I think Norman Lotz is as talented as any three technique in the draft, guys. I mean, and you brought up Walter Nolan's name. I mean, he was jumping off the ball and guys couldn't block him. He had some reps during the week where literally the offensive linemen, they didn't get a hand on the guy, because of his get off is so good. And I understand the O-line, D-line drills are designed for defensive line more. If you're going against the center and if you're lined up over a snap hand and he can't get a snap hand up, that's not always fair.
Right.
But no, those guys were good, man. They had a really good week. So, it's D-line and O-line are two positions that if you're a guy building an NFL team, you never feel like your roster is good enough. You just don't. I mean, the Eagles are unbelievable on the offensive line right now, and Jeff Stoutland, their O-line coach, does a great job developing players. But I think if you ask Howie Roseman right now, he said he probably wouldn't be happy with his O-line group. So it's a great year to need D linemen. And I will say this: going into the year, we did not think it was going to be a great O-line draft, and it's significantly better than we thought it was going to be at the start of the year. A lot of these guys have stepped up throughout the season and stepped up this last week in Mobile.
On the note of that, Jim Nagy, Executive Director of Reese's Senior Bowl, joining us now in RKW. The Titans, again, looking for an offensive lineman on the right side, specifically the tackle position, but also probably at guard too. When you look at this group of offensive linemen, like you just mentioned, how, I guess, transferable are some of these guys? Because we've seen a lot of the guards, but they can also play on the outside. Like, how do you feel like that will transition at the next level for some of these guys going to that tackle spot?
Yeah, like a guy like Armand Membu is getting a lot of love right now, first-round love in a lot of the mock draft stuff. And he got sick the second night he was here. He didn't even get on the field, but he was here long enough to measure. And he's a junior, so no one really knew what this guy's measurements were, and his arms came in at 34 inches. Now, you're keeping that guy at tackle, and he played on the right. So he played on the right side at Missouri, but he's easily athletic enough to play left tackle. He's already shown he can play right tackle. You got guys like Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College, who I think is going to start for 10 years in the league on the right side. Really, really good football player. Miles Frazier is a guy that played guard at LSU, kind of out of necessity because Emory Jones was the right tackle and Will Campbell was the left tackle. So Miles Frazier played guard. He came down here and played a bunch of right tackle, and he was voted by his peers as the offensive lineman of the week on the American team. I mean, I think that tells you something. His future might be as a starting right tackle, and going into the week, nobody really knew that. So, again, those are the things. That's the value of the Senior Bowl. I mean, Miles comes down here, and nobody knows what he can do at tackle, and he looks like a guy that's going to start there, for 2 contracts. So, it really did. I'm not just saying it. This year's offensive line class, these guys stepped up. A lot of these guys got better in the offseason, and they proved us wrong. It's actually going to be a pretty good offensive line group.
Miles Frazier definitely looked very comfortable out there. I must say, out of LSU. Jim, here's the other thing too, man. You host an event that's full of dreamers, right? You really put like guys that had dreams as a kid and fans be in a position to be like, yes, absolutely, I can do it too. You know where I'm going. Willie Lampkin, okay, a dreamer, a guard center that's 5'10". 275, 280 pounds. What did he do this week to help himself? And just let everybody know that, yes, he is legitimately 5'10", 275, playing offensive line at a high rate right now.
Yeah, he's one of the cooler stories of the week, and I haven't had a chance to obviously I don't get a chance to watch the NFL Network coverage and the ESPN stuff, but I hope they highlighted him during the week because he was a late addition for us. Literally the day before the day before player arrival, Willie got the phone call, and he answered the bell. A lot of those guys might have been like, you know what, Jim, like I'm training. I wasn't really planning on doing this. And Willie said, you know what, okay, I'll be ready to go, and jumped on a plane the next day. So, we lost Jared Wilson, who's everybody's number 1 center in the draft the day before, and replaced him with Willie. And Willie's PFF's number 1 graded guard. The problem is, problem being for NFL teams, he's an extreme outlier. 5'10", man, 5'10". He was 270 here. He was 1 pound away from being in the 260s, which is crazy. But going back to my time with Mike Borgonzi in Kansas City, we had we had a center, Casey Wiegman, who was about that size. But that's been a while. Now we're going back like 15 years. There's not a lot of guys Willie's size. I mean, he's a historic outlier. But, the tape was good. You watch UNC against Florida State, and he's going against Darrell Jackson Jr., who, had he come out this year in the draft, would have been a late first, early second-round pick. He's going against Josh Farmer, who is here at the Senior Bowl, who's probably going to be a second-round pick. And he's more than holding his own. But bringing him down here, I mean, it's rep after rep after rep. It's outside of the ACC. It's NFL guy after NFL guy, and he's more than holding his own. So he was a guy that day when we invited him, whatever that was, 10 or 11 days ago, that my phone lit up after that in the league, because the league needed to see him, and he probably got himself drafted here this week. I really think that he's a guy that, rather than teams trying to wait on free agency and bid on this guy and get into a bidding war, some smart GM is going to be like, you know what, forget it. Let's just draft the guy and get him on our team rather than, waste a lot of time trying to bid on his services. So it was really cool to see Willie do his thing. He was a 4-time state wrestling champ, incredible technician, never on the ground, strong hands, big strong hands. He's a really cool football player. At the end of the day, he's just a good football player.
Yeah.
He is Jim Nagy. Outstanding insight, as always, with the executive director of the Senior Bowl here on Ramon, Kayla, and Wilt. Jim, once again, congrats on a great week. We really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for coming down, guys.
Yes, sir. Jim Nagy with us here this morning, talking Reese's Senior Bowl and talking NFL Draft. Lots for us to react to there. 615-737-1045 if you want to. Over the weekend, John Calipari went back to Kentucky and shut up a lot of people wearing blue. Let's talk about that next. What's going on? It's Will Bowling. If you are looking for cars, I have got the place for you. And maybe you've seen the words buy here, pay here, and you're thinking, that's probably not a place that's on my list. Well, I'm here to tell you there is one place you can go and you can trust, and they do business the right way. Nolensville Road Auto Mart. They are different for a few simple reasons. They have been doing business in Nashville for 61 years. Nashville natives like me that only sell clean title cars under 12 grand. So if you're new to town and you need a place to trust, folks that are here in this market and know this area, they have got you. Or if you need that first car for the 16-year-old, the new driver in your family, Nolensville Auto Mart is where I would go. And if you don't want to take my word for it, well, check out their Google reviews. They are excellent, and that's saying something for a car dealership as well. With just one location on Nolensville Road, close to Thompson Lane, they will get you in and out in an hour or less. And the best part, they're the oldest buy here, pay here in Nashville, and they work with your own financing if you got it as well. 615-242-1279 is the number to call. Flexibility, transparency, and honesty. That's why I recommend Nolensville Road Auto Mart. Give them a call at 615-242-1279. RKW 104.5 The Zone rolls through the end of hour 3. We'll reset the headlines for you if you're waking up late. Coming up in just a few minutes. 615-737-1045. And you can check out the RKW podcast wherever you download podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and 1045thezone.com to hear Jim Nagy and to hear David Cobb of CBS Sports. So we'll talk college hoops with us coming up in a half hour. Arkansas, 89. Kentucky, 79. The Boo Birds rained down, and Calipari said, you might hate me, but you do know me. To quote Iron Man, if anyone didn't get the reference. 52 points for 3 guys that used to play for Kentucky. Adu Thiero, TJ Wagner, and Zvonimir Ivisic. Impressive.
It was. Very much so, man. Cal walked in and did exactly what you needed him doing those moments. He coached his butt off, is what most of the Kentucky fan base been asking him to do anyway. It's like, coach, like, do the thing. Like, make us great again when it comes to Kentucky basketball. Like, that's what they've been asking for, and he rolled in and did it with a lesser team. Again, he's a hell of a coach, but you got to give it up to Arkansas. They play lights out. They forced Kentucky to look like a bunch of they just forced them outside of their normal wits is the way I viewed this one. They kept their emotions in check as Arkansas is as they roll into Rupp Arena. It keeps jumping out Corrupt Arena for some odd reason.
I wonder why.
I don't know why either, but silenced a lot of folks. There were some clappers behind that as far as Cal being inside that stadium. Beautiful lead up to it, and it lived up to the hype in my opinion on this weekend too.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to see. We talked a lot about that game, coming into this weekend. And by the way, what a fun weekend for basketball in general. Just a lot of good stuff on the tube here if you like the hardwood. But yeah, I'm looking at just in terms of the statistics too. You look at this Arkansas team shot 55.2% from the field. They haven't been great in terms of those shooting percentage so far this year. And then, Kentucky, who forced Tennessee a couple days earlier from three-point land, to have to shoot those threes. Didn't do too much of that in the second half of that game either when it came to trying to get back in the game. So interesting situation, but that's what you're going to get in the SEC. We talk about this day in and day out. Like, even with the team that only had one win in the SEC in Arkansas, they had a lot to play for.
Yeah, they did.
They shot lights out from 3. They were only shooting 32% from 3 for the season and making 5.7 threes per game in SEC play. Arkansas. They made 13 three-pointers in this game, and they shot 52% from behind the arc. Meanwhile, Kentucky in the second half, 3 of 13 from 3. Very unlike what they did in Knoxville. This is what Mark Pope teams are going to do at Kentucky. This was the quintessential Kentucky week under Mark Pope. They're going to win some games they're not supposed to. They went to Knoxville. They beat Tennessee as a 10.5-point underdog. They weren't supposed to win that one. They did because they shot the lights out. Good for you. And then you go back home to Arkansas and you lose a game you're not supposed to. That's also going to happen because they don't play defense and they rely so much on three-point shots. Mark Pope will have more time to get elite talent in there. He's got a good roster. He's turned it over in a significant way. It's still a good basketball team. But I think it is a concern for Kentucky that you have a coach in a sport where you have to win 6 games in a row to win a national title, that you have a coach that runs a system that is so hot or cold. It is hard to go in a 6-game winning streak against elite competition playing this way. And until I see it, I don't think Kentucky will ever win a national championship under Mark Pope because I don't think the system is consistent enough for them to win 6 games in a row like that.
Yeah, because it doesn't get any easier right now in terms of what they're going to face. They're going to go at Ole Miss next on the road. Yeah. And then you got South Carolina and then Tennessee.
No doubt about it. What's fascinating to me is, and I know he probably had to leave, but Jonas Adu and his ability to be a part of the Arkansas team, none at all. I mean, it's non-existent at a point. I mean, he was pretty much even on the game. 1 block, 1 turnover. Like, what are we doing, Adu? Like, your services could have been used well in Knoxville.
Oh, my gosh. They could I could definitely use it. I don't know if they get Felix Okpara if they still have Adu, but maybe.
That's true, too. And I, for what it's worth, it seems like Okpara is somewhat figuring out how to score around the rim. It's gradually getting better for Okpara. So it's fascinating that a guy like him can go to that system. Like, one, that's not your system. You speak about Mark Pope's system at Kentucky. That's not the system that Adu needs to be playing in as it pertains to his college career. But with that being said, his stars showed up. Adu Thero, right, showed up big time for Arkansas this past weekend. And, of course, I didn't realize it, too, until the season started. Like, DJ Wagner did come back. So Cal's got some stars there. It's a matter of when – no. It's a matter of how they can capitalize with what they've done in such a short window. And at the same point, Coach Pope at Kentucky, they got a good squad. You just can't lose that game inside of Rupp Arena.
Yeah, that was not good.
Corrupt Arena.
Corrupt Arena. I don't know why did I say it wrong the first time? Corrupt Arena.
It's never going to change.
No, absolutely not. Good basketball weekend this past weekend, though. It was fun. Mm-hmm. And again, you brought up a second ago. What is the SEC at this point?
A juggernaut.
Best conference in college basketball.
Good teams lose every night right now.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Home and away.
Coming up, fourth and final hour of the show. Reset the headlines for you. ESPN's Pete Thamel says there is building sentiment from scouts and executive around who is likely to be the number one overall pick. That's the story of the morning. David Cobb of CBS coming up at 9:20. Your thoughts at 615-737-1045. Hour 4 of RKW is next.
What's going on? 9 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. College and NFL coaching staffs taking shape over the weekend as Chip Kelly was named the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. Kelly spent the past 7 years in college football, including last season as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for the national champion Ohio State, averaging 35.7 points a game, going 14-2. Ohio State has lost 3 key assistants this offseason now. Offensive coordinator Chip Kelly headed to the Raiders. Defensive coordinator Jim Knowles headed to Penn State. And offensive line coach Justin Fry headed to the Arizona Cardinals. A couple coordinators going back to the NFL. Another one comes back to the college ranks as Alabama is hiring former Seahawks offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb as its new offensive coordinator. Grubb reunites with Kalen DeBoer, who was at Washington essentially his entire coaching career. And in the NBA, we were all consumed with the trade of Luka Doncic this weekend going to the Lakers. A second superstar on the move as De'Aaron Fox shipped from Sacramento to San Antonio to be paired with Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs currently 2 games back in the West of the 10th seed. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show rolls into the 4th and final hour, kicking off your Monday. Hope it was a good weekend. Welcome back into RKW 615-737-1045. David Cobb of CBS Sports will join us coming up in 20 minutes, covering college basketball. He was on the desk at CBS Sports Network over the weekend. We'll dive into Tennessee's win over Florida, Vanderbilt's resurgence under Mark Byington despite a loss over the weekend, a number of college hoops topics coming up here in 15 minutes. Streaming live at 104.5 The Zone TV with Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. I'm Will Bowling. And the story of the morning we have covered pretty much every hour. ESPN's Pete Thamel writing over the weekend that the building sentiment from scouts and executives this week was that Cam Ward is likely to be the number 1 pick, adding this is more anecdotal than scientific, as neither passer was in Mobile, meaning Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. But Ward's versatility and ability to run stand out as a separating trait.
Yeah. And here's the thing about his ability to run. I don't know if he's going to be 4.4 fast either. I think he's just smart with how he chooses to escape the pocket. The word to me, it seems Shedeur is hey, I'm going to always use my arms to make plays because I can spin this ball way faster than I can run myself. So I'm fascinated to see what they run if they do choose to run their 40, because a lot of times the quarterbacks don't have to run their 40s. But it will help either one. It is specifically, I think, help Shedeur than it will Cam, considering we've seen Cam use his legs a little bit more.
Yeah, it is interesting. You know, you're coming out of the Senior Bowl where you had a lot of front office people down there. You had a lot of coaches down there. There's a lot of mingling going on. And you're going to be things every week that continue to come out, especially about the number 1 overall pick. Now, Will mentioned this earlier on in the 6 o'clock hour, that just because they're saying number 1 overall doesn't mean it's specifically attached to the Titans. And that is what we don't know yet. What are the Titans truly looking to do at that number 1 spot? Like I did earlier on, didn't want to share a sentiment that was brought to me by a coach that met up with Cam Ward along his career, worked very closely with him, just so we have some outside information on him too. It's not just our opinions, it's not just the analysts, but this coach said, great human, unbelievable personality, fiercely competitive, diligent in his preparation, film study, and practice habits, exudes confidence. Love that kid. He also said, I think he will thrive at the NFL. The kid has had 4 different play callers in his college career and just gotten better with all 4 of them. So being able to learn and retain information is something that is a real positive. He's incredibly talented, will be able to do anything at the next level asks of him. So just a little bit of just a coach that worked with him very closely. There's some insight as well, whether that be for the Titans, that they take him, or another team, that's yet to be seen.
What does that coach's name rhyme with? Like if it was
there.
Coach.
It's hard enough for me in this business to get information. Yeah, it is what it is. Being a female, it's tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So I will say, though, it's a very viable source.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
Does this number one pick have to be a quarterback, though, too, if the Titans stick?
Absolutely not.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, and that to me is where it comes into play. Like if you have any uncertainty about either one of those, so if you're not picking the quarterback, I'll do an interview session real quick. If you're not picking any one of the quarterbacks, who are you taking, Will?
Abdul Carter, edge rusher, Penn State.
Who are you taking if it's not either one?
I like Abdul Carter and would not be mad at it. I mean, dang, give me Travis Hunter. Yeah.
Why him over Carter?
Because I feel like in that situation, there are some pass rushers that you can find in this draft. Now, they're not going to be him, right? And we don't know yet if he's going to be that dude. But I feel like with Travis Hunter, you just get him in the building and then you figure out where you want to put him. Like, that's a great problem to have. I know some say, put him at cornerback. Heck yeah. No, maximize him. Put him on the offensive side of the ball. Let him, be able to be contributed there. You can put him in certain packages, too. Yeah. I know he's not going to play both sides of the ball all the time. But that's like what I think of. Put him in the building. Just get him there. And then decide what you want to do with him.
No doubt about it.
What's your answer?
I think it'd be Abdul Carter, if you're asking me. Like I said, barring injury, because you always got to deal with that when you got a Micah Parsons size guy, like those 6'3", 250-ish pounds, 50-ish pound guys that you want to play every single down. That's the difference between him and Mike Green from Marshall.
Right.
I think Mike Green is going to be a specialty piece. Abdul Carter's coming in to be a game changer. And can he go 60 reps a game and hold up every single play like that? And also, what is he like against the run? Like, we know you're a rush specialist. But if you're asking me to hey, the job's dependent upon you making the right decision, don't pick a quarterback because we'll get him next year or the year after. Abdul Carter's the guy I go to.
ESPN's Matt Miller put out his first mock draft this morning himself. And he did a 2-round mock draft. So we have 2 picks that we can dive into here for the Titans. But Matt Miller said Abdul Carter would be his number 1 pick for the Titans, and said Titans president Chad Brinker said the team will not pass on a generational talent with the number 1 pick. Carter is the closest thing to that. After showing situational pass rush ability in his first 2 seasons, Penn State made him a full-time edge rusher in 2024. He turned in a dominant season with 12 sacks, 61 hurries, and an FBS edge rusher or edge pressure percentage of 19.6%. Here's the comp that I love. Matt Miller says, if that sounds like Micah Parsons, well, it should. Like Parsons, Carter is a player you can build a defense around. And to me, that's the reason why I would go Carter over Hunter, is because I think edge rusher might be the second most important position in football. Other than maybe left tackle.
Yeah.
We obviously, we won't even argue what number 1 is in quarterback. But beyond that, I think you have a guy in Abdul Carter you can build your defense around for a decade. And I don't know if Travis Hunter is that good of a prospect at receiver to be the building block for everything, because I don't think you're putting him at corner if you draft him. Some teams might. I don't think, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if Travis Hunter's a corner here.
Is he a corner here? I think for the long haul he is.
Okay.
Me personally, I'm not playing him on offense. I think he goes to defense. No.
It's interesting the amount of people that are split on this.
Well, and Blaine Bishop, who played the DB position, he's like convinced right now, at least from what I've heard in that show on Cover 2, he'd rather see him on the offensive side.
He'd rather see him on the offensive side of things. And Blaine knows secondary way better than I could ever think about looking at a coverage, okay? So if that's his stance on it, he's probably saying something I don't.
Yeah.
I just feel like it'd be an easier transition for him to be a cornerback, because I have to look more at his release at the line of scrimmage, but his size, his weight, can he get off the line of scrimmage against NFL cornerbacks? And we'll see what his speed looks like, too.
Right. I just love the fact that Abdul Carter has played 1 year at edge rusher, and his ceiling is ridiculously high. Like, he was an inside linebacker until last season, and he turned in 19.6% pressure rate. Like, the dude is an athletic specimen that does not come around often.
No. And that's why, like I said, we're talking about jobs and trying to find immediate impact. And there's also the side, look, Denard Wilson deserves something too. So, that to me is where I feel like he's the safest pick if we're sticking at number one. It just makes sense to me. And if not him, then Travis Hunter for sure.
So what position do you think Matt Miller is addressing for the Titans with their second-round pick?
For the second wide receiver. Is what I would think.
Any guesses?
The second pick?
Second round. First pick of the second round at this point, too, if I'm not mistaken.
It'd be pick 35. The Browns have the first pick of the second round.
Okay.
You got to, if you're taking an edge at that number one spot, if that's what we're going with, you got to take a wide receiver. Look, you've got to start loading up on offense here.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
This is still the side of the ball that is struggling.
Sorry, I was talking back to Bert. Linebacker is who Matt Miller has the Titans taking with the second pick. So he has the Titans doubling up on defense with its first 2 picks in the draft and taking Carson Schweizinger, linebacker, UCLA, inside linebacker. Says Titans fans might wonder why a quarterback hasn't been selected yet, but new general manager Mike Bergonzi won't want to tie his tenure to a QB he isn't 100% on. Instead, the Titans might draft a high-impact linebacker who can immediately step into the lineup. A former walk-on, Schweizinger has 136 tackles, 4 sacks, and 2 interceptions this past season.
Jeez. Okay.
Interesting. So we could be seeing defense.
I mean,
and then no third-round pick.
I think that's hard to sell to your fans, to be quite honest with you.
I do too.
But part of what the Titans want to be now is an organization that takes first downs and not touchdowns. Those were Chad Brinker's words. And Ramon, you're the one that has said that you don't want them to care as much about what the fans think and just shut up and work.
Shut up and work. Head down.
And taking 2 defensive players with the first 2 picks would definitely be that. Honestly, I don't care what position these guys play. Just give me players you know are going to be good. Honestly.
Thank you.
In the draft, you are not drafting for the 2025 Titans. You are drafting for the next 5 years. And I don't care if the fan base doesn't like it. I don't care if we don't like it. If that's who they believe is the best football player for them to take, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
This roster has so many holes. Just get a good player.
And they've said
it's that simple.
They're going to be tight with the pocketbook. Okay, they don't even have a change purse right now. Like they're trying to build this thing up as much as they possibly can with as many picks as they can get to. Schweizinger, you said is his name, the linebacker out of UCLA.
And again, I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but
no, that was good. That was it.
Schweizinger.
There you go.
Hey now,
come
on.
Schweizinger.
But it makes sense to me. Again, I've said this. If I'm in the front office, the strongest part of this team is defense. You might as well pour into it until the offense catch up.
Might as well double down.
Well, then Brian Callahan might not have a job. Just saying.
If it helps him win games.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again, I don't know
He got a lot of improvements.
How does he get to those wins and losses?
Got a lot of improvements to make on offense. He was here to revamp offense.
He is still over the entire team, so the wins will go towards him if Denard Wilson. Well, it'll help Denard Wilson get a head coaching job if he flips it around. That's what also happens.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up next, David Cobb of CBS Sports will join us covering college basketball on the CBS Sports Network desk over the weekend. We'll talk some hoops coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Y'all, Hiller has been in business since 1990, man, and they're family-owned and operated too, man. Jimmy Hiller was recently named among the most admired CEOs, and that doesn't just happen, okay? It's because of how he truly cares for his team and his client. Hiller takes care of every customer, every job, every single time, too. They stand by their word. So much so their slogan is this, man, happy you'll be or the service is free. 100% satisfaction is what they guarantee every single time, because if a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right, whatever they have to do, man. And they always send their professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians whenever they come into your home. They leave it cleaner and better than they found it. And they also offer you true transparency pricing. What does this mean, you say? Well, Well, every part of the job is told to you up front, so homeowners can easily understand what they're paying for and why. There are no hidden fees, no added costs, no surprises when you get your bill. To book with the people that I trust, to simply find out more details, go to happyhiller.com.
RKW continues this morning on 104.5 The Zone with a full crew in studio, kicking off the new week. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined by David Cobb of CBS Sports with a lot to discuss in the college basketball world over the weekend. David, I guess I should say television's David Cobb. Congrats, man, on the desk at CBS Sports HQ. You crushed it over the weekend.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to be like you and be multifaceted. You know, you kind of invented that whole thing. You're a writer. Now you're a radio host. Oh, yeah, by the way, you're on ESPN all the time. So I'm just trying to be like Will Bowling.
You know
David,
what?
stay tuned later. We're going to weekly spots with David Cobb sound like in our near future. Anytime, David, come on over. Our alma mater had quite an interesting weekend, didn't they? Because Tennessee was 7 scholarship players, a favorite against Florida. Then you learn no Zakai Ziegler, no Igor Milicic. It didn't matter. How surprised were you about what we all watched in Knoxville over the weekend?
Well, yeah, Will, I don't know if you're like me and you're still in a couple of Tennessee group chats with all your college buddies, but that group chat for me was saying, oh, go hammer the Florida money line.
Right, yes.
Right? I mean, you're down to 7 scholarship players. You're missing the reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year. They've got a lot of size, and you don't have Igor Milicic. So how's that going to play out? Well, I think what we saw was the byproduct of some really intense defensive-oriented Rick Barnes practices after that Kentucky game, because Kentucky really lit Tennessee up in a way that I'm sure really irked Coach Barnes. And, boy, that defensive effort, it was salty. And, so they only had 7 guys, but all 7 of them gave them something. And they needed that one, because if they dropped that one, then they've lost 5 out of 8. And you just kind of have a sour taste going into the second half of the SEC schedule. So that one was huge and just further illustration of how wild this conference is.
David Cobb of CBS Sports, our guest. And David, on the flip side, it's a Florida team that had not been held under 60 points all season. And then not only do they not get 60, they don't even get 50. What do you make of that group and just the depth they have in the front court, but the experience in the back court as well? They're as deep as anyone, David, to me in the SEC. How high is that Florida team ceiling? Because they look like a different squad when they get outside of Gainesville every now and then.
Yeah, their backcourt is incredible. It's so just high powered with Will Richard, who started at Belmont, obviously, and then you got Walter Clayton Jr. And then the one that's been just completely surprising to me, or above and beyond, I guess, what I expected, is Elijah Martin, who was at FAU. He was overshadowed during this portal cycle by John L. Davis, though, who was his teammate at FAU, who ended up at Arkansas. Of those two, I mean, I was definitely in the camp of thinking that John L. Davis would be a higher impact guy, but Elijah Martin's been one of the top 10 transfers in the country for Florida. So that's been a huge bonus for them. And then you mentioned the depth in the front court. They've got some trees and some towers out there that most teams just can't match up with. How Tennessee cracked the code, I really don't know, but it was just a complete reversal of what happened down in Gainesville when Tennessee got taken to the woodshed down there last month. So I think it was a matter of motivation, really, for Tennessee. These guys punked us last time. It's time to kind of give that back to them. And you just don't see a whole lot of teams that are capable of doing that to Florida. So, rest assured, this Tennessee team does still have problems offensively, without a doubt. But what they showed against an elite national title caliber Florida team is that, hey, the Vols can still go out there and beat anybody on any given day.
CBS Sports' David Cobb with us this morning. David, when it comes down to, you mentioned SEC ball, Auburn, I feel like at some point can drop also as far as a game or two. But across the SEC, if you are a betting man, woman, anybody that is of age, how do you bet these games? Because you got a hot Vanderbilt team losing by 30. You got Tennessee, who's supposed to lose to Florida, win by 20. And you got, of course, Cal going back to Lexington and beating his old squad in Rupp Arena.
There he is. Okay.
What is the SEC and who's actually that strong, David?
Yeah, from a betting standpoint, stay away. That's my advice. That's my advice. Get that Tennessee helpline in your phone. But no, it's crazy. I kind of got it separated out into tiers in my mind. In that top tier, like if you want to do it as like a Marriott tier, the Bonvoy Gold Premier Diamond for Life Club is kind of like Auburn and Alabama. Like they are a rung in my mind above Florida and Tennessee, who would kind of be on that next level. Then you just have a mayhem group there, right? Like Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, Texas A&M. Like all these teams are going to be 5 seeds, 6 seeds in the NCAA tournament. And it doesn't stop there, because there's a whole class below them, including Vanderbilt, Georgia, Texas, all these other teams that look like they're going to make the tournament as well. And so really right now there's only 3 teams that are on the outside looking in at the NCAA tournament. And now we might see one of those teams, Arkansas, parlay a big win at Kentucky into a charge to try to get into the at-large conversation. So, yeah, it's just chaos. And you see it with South Carolina even. They're the worst team in the conference, but they're taking everybody down to the wire almost every time they play, and they've just ended up on the bad side of some unlucky breaks. So it's chaos, and that SEC tournament at Bridgestone is just going to be unhinged.
It really is. And outside of the SEC, real quick, man, I'm looking at just the pre-mock drafts and just the amount of talent that's across college basketball in general. You got BYU paying $5 million for a kid, but even before that, right now at Rutgers, of all schools, you have 2 top 5 potential picks, man, and Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. Not to even mention what Cooper Flagg's doing right now and a multitude of others across college basketball. How do you view where the game is with that amount of talent as opposed to what we've seen as of late? The international side of things, I think, kind of turned a lot of people off as it pertains to the NBA. How good is it to see this talent in college basketball in front of our eyes right now?
Yeah, this is the best group of freshman talent, Ramon, that we've had in college basketball in quite some time. And it's deeper than just Cooper Flagg. It's Jeremiah Fears at Oklahoma, who has a big game against Vandy. It's almost every team. Tennessee is one of the few exceptions in the SEC. Almost every team in the league has a high-level freshman making big-time contributions for them. Even though Georgia, with an Asa Newell, he's a projected lottery pick, and he's at Georgia, and that goes for almost every conference across the board. And, some of them are actually international guys, like Igor Demon, who you mentioned at BYU. Mm-hmm. He's a projected lottery pick. But that guy probably doesn't play college basketball 6-7 years ago before the NIL era. Mm-hmm. But now he can come over to the States, make a sizable paycheck, be in front of NBA scouts on a nightly basis, and that option now makes a lot more sense for him. But from a domestic standpoint, there is more freshman talent, even with some of these fifth-year COVID guys still in the sport, than there has been in quite some time. I think it's a breath of fresh air a little bit, because it's not just, this is Johnny so-and-so who's on his 4th school and 6th season and, carrying the team, right? It's some of this fresh blood and fresh energy. And I think that's great. I think it's going to make for a compelling stretch run here in college basketball.
I just only bring it up because last year's number 1 and number 2 pick, we're not even talking about him right now. We talk more about Bronny James in the G League than we do Zachariah Resharar. How you say Resharar? And Alex Sarr, legitimately. And I only bring it up because viewership is down so much in the NBA, and I think it does come down to name placement. And it's good to see these freshmen do their thing.
Yeah, for sure. Flagg is going to be a huge part of the conversation down the stretch. He's as good as advertised. He's the best freshman in college basketball since Zion Williamson. Totally different styles of game. That comp is going to get made a lot. They play different styles of ball. But he's just every bit as good in his own way as Zion was for Duke. And then, you mentioned Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper. They're not going to make the NCAA tournament in all likelihood, but they're great. If you can get a chance to watch them because they're really good, and both those guys are going to be studs in the NBA. So there's just a lot more of that high-end talent in college ball, and guys that you're going to see, with their names called early in the NBA draft. It's not a situation this year where we're like, well, I guess Reed Shepherd's going to be a top 5 pick. Okay, there's some real studs out there.
David Cobb of CBS Sports joining us this morning on RKW. So with Coach Cal going back to a place where he spent a lot of time this past weekend in Kentucky, what did you make of that game, and what will Kentucky be, I guess, with him no longer there in terms of that blue blood team that will always be in the tournament, will always kind of have its name out there? Can that still be the Kentucky that we know?
Well, yeah, it's just going to look different for Kentucky. It's not going to be built on the backs of McDonald's All-Americans and five-star freshmen like it was for 15 years under John Calipari. What we see with Mark Pope now is a transfer-oriented team with not a single NBA draft prospect on the roster. It's just so different. But by and large, with Saturday's game as an exception, the offense for Kentucky has been magnificent and just a masterpiece from a schematics and X's and O's perspective relative to what John Calipari was producing there in his last few seasons when things went south. And so Kentucky is still winning the breakup with John Calipari. If you just tuned in Saturday night, and I know a lot of people are at this point in the sports calendar, just starting to flip the page in their minds from football, and I get that. But don't let Saturday night cloud your judgment of the way this thing has gone, because for the most part, Kentucky's been really good this season, whereas Arkansas has struggled. And the team that we see at Arkansas right now with John Calipari is almost the exact same team that he would have had at Kentucky had he stayed. And they're 2-6 in the SEC, and they're on the wrong side of the bubble right now. So we'll see if that win in Lexington jumpstarts Arkansas. I think it could, because they do have a lot of talent. But I'm a believer in Kentucky. I think Mark Pope is a really good ball coach, and I think he's going to get results there. And I think Kentucky fans should still be glad that the change was made, because with John Calipari leaving on his own, that absolved them of a $30 million buyout, and now their program, I think, is on pretty stable ground under Mark Pope.
David Cobb joining us this morning. We're talking a little college hoops. So it doesn't have to be an SEC team, David, but who has been your underperforming team this year, where maybe we've heard of them in the past and they've been a tournament team that you're going, what happened? What's this drop-off?
Yeah, I think you got to look at the two-time reigning national champion UConn Huskies. They are going into a big week for them. So they got St. John's at the end of the week. That is a classic kind of Big Ten battle. Dan Hurley and Rick Pitino. I mean, that's fun. The two of them going at each other. So so they have some flaws. UConn is not the system, the machine that it was a year ago. In particular, on defense, you can actually score against them now because they don't have a 7'2" Donovan Clingan there under the basket anymore. So they've fallen off a little bit. A lot of that was back in November. They really struggled. They've figured some things out since then, but they've still got to get fully healthy. So they're a team to watch down the stretch, because they could struggle down the stretch and be an 8 or a 9 seed, and that's just kind of not what we're expecting from a UConn team that's been really, really strong the last couple seasons.
David Cobb of CBS Sports with us. David, what has impressed you the most about Mark Byington and Vanderbilt this season? I know you've been in the building to see a couple of their upsets and have been able to talk with the first-year Vandy head coach.
Yeah, just the depth and quality of the players he was able to find from a fit standpoint, right? Like he got a lot of guys that fit the way he wants to play, that don't turn the ball over. He's listing them all as point guards. It's kind of a silly thing, but it really actually meshes with his coaching style, because it's about taking care of the basketball, turning other people over. They are undersized this year. It's been really impressive to watch because Vanderbilt was picked to finish last in the SEC, and understandably so. And so I asked him the other day, I was like, what did myself and everybody else get wrong about you guys? I kind of teed him up to tee off on me and everybody else who was a Vanderbilt doubter, right? And he said, well, in this era, it's hard to make predictions because everybody's roster looks so different year over year. He didn't even really take the bait there.
Wow.
But now he's got a team that is on the right path. Like, we got to see kind of how they respond from a big loss at Oklahoma over the weekend. Yeah. But my number for Vanderbilt is get to 8 wins in the SEC. If you do that, you got 20 going into the SEC tournament, and I think you're a lock for the big dance at that point. And if he makes the NCAA tournament in year one, I mean, my gosh, he should absolutely be an SEC Coach of the Year conversation.
He is David Cobb, covering college basketball and college football at CBS Sports at David W. Cobb. He absolutely crushes it. A must follow on social media for college sports fans. David, great to catch up with you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, good to talk with you guys.
Thanks, David.
Yes, sir. David Cobb with us here this morning. And I say he is a must follow and does a great job, not just because he says nice things about me. He does a great job on his own.
If you guys want stability, watch the women's game, okay? Because there was some great basketball on this weekend, too, as far as name placement goes. But, hey, it's what it is. He was good. I appreciate you bringing him on. I didn't realize Rutgers had this arsenal of players that they have right now, too.
They do. And they got one of those guys is from Georgia and was asked earlier in the season what the biggest adjustment was. And he said, y'all don't have Waffle House up here, which I can confirm in New Jersey. My lovely fiance Peyton had her first Waffle House experience this football season in her life. Which I didn't know God-fearing people could go that long without going to Waffle House, but apparently you can. So.
Ace Bailey is his name.
Yeah.
Dog,
Bucket.
man. Bucket. That's what I was going to say.
Really fun player to watch.
The Harper kid is also NBA player Ron Harper's son, Dylan Harper.
Nice.
So we're getting to that era now of former NBA players going to, I think, Shane Battier's sons. I think they're about to go to college right now. Both of them. High caliber athletes, man.
You're getting it in all sports now.
Yeah, you are. You are.
Let's go to the phones. Ronnie is in Clarksville. Wanted to chime in on the Titans and quarterback and all those things we've been talking about this morning. What's up, Ronnie?
Hey, how you doing this morning?
Good.
Yeah, my comment is on the Titans, why not trade the pick? I mean, we've got the worst offensive line in the league. We need players on defense. We need, safeties and linemen. And the last thing we need is a really good quarterback that we can't protect.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'd like to hear your all's comments.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie.
I think for all of us, that's plan A, right?
Yeah, and we can say all day, trade back. That's not something you can just do and know what's going to happen. You have to have a trade partner. That's the biggest thing about it. And so unless they have a trade partner, you can't do that. But I do think that does, in a lot of ways, make sense because you are trying to fill in all these other holes that this team has. And there are a lot of them. So you're correct. If that is something they can do, I'm sure they will do it.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, it's the getting the quarterback and potentially ruining him. That what gets you the most right there is too many hits, skittish in the pocket after the fact. I think we saw, to be honest with you, earlier in the season, we saw a little bit of it out of on the college level. Nico Iamaleava, like it was at times when he felt pressure coming, he squat down real quick instead of just being comfortable and delivering the football. Both these young athletes, man, with Shedeur and Cam, can be good. It will result to the team that you have and how can you surround and protect them. No, I mean, Jaden Daniels' biggest adjustment is going to be next year. Can he do it again?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like you said earlier with the Titans mindset, they don't want to get like $10 million in one drop. They want to get $1 million for 10 years straight.
Right.
So that's going to be the motto, I think.
One commenter on YouTube says there will 100% be trade offers. Whether they are good enough offers is the question. I agree.
Well, yeah.
I think that's true.
Yeah, you got to have.
You got to find a partner that's willing to meet your price. So if I were giving you those three options, right? Let's say for the sake of conversation, there is a trade partner, or you could take Abdul Carter, or you could just take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. What's your first choice if there is a trade partner?
If there's a trade partner, I take the trade.
If it's a good enough trade and you don't have to trade down out of the top 5, I would take the trade.
I would too. I think trading back with a partner that's willing to give you the draft capital that replaces what you gave for L'Jarius Sneed, at the very least, and a first or second round pick next season. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, okay, hypothetically, that's what we're dealing with because it's line season. Would you take a trade that gave you multiple non-first round picks, like give me 2 2s, 3 3s, and a something? And swapping of picks.
It better be a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and plus, you got to have your first round pick this year, obviously.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, of course.
You can't miss out on
beyond that.
But if you added another
I need
2,
multiple 2s if I'm not getting a first round pick next year.
Another 3 in this draft, another 2 next year, and another 3 plus a 5th. I don't know where it is on that scale, but
it depends on how far I'm moving back, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm moving back to 3 or 7, those are going to be very different prices to come up to 1. So it's hard to know without knowing who is making the trade.
I was just wondering if it has ever been I don't think there's ever been a trade for number 1 where you don't get a 1 back like the next year.
There has been, but not
It's
to go
pretty
back
rare,
very
though.
far. Like if you're doing that, then you're probably only going back to 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So if the Giants want to move up, then yeah, I'm only moving back 2 spots. I don't have to pay that much.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm moving back to 7 with the Jets, I better be getting your first round pick next year.
Next year, for sure.
615-737-1045. Final call for phone calls. We'll hit headlines on the way out. Coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster for Secure Lawn, man. I know you guys are getting into the mode. Right now, we got fall spring coming upon us this week, all right, where it's going to get a little warm. You guys might see some new growth coming out of their grass. Well, if you're also like me, too, and you're the ones that walk around your yard every day, getting mad when you see weeds, you obsessively care about the grass. Your spouses and friends tell you that you talk about your grass more than you talk about anything, and that's because you want to be the envy of your neighbors, all right? Secure Lawn is the company to call if you want to be that guy. If you want a company that will be there for you year after year, it's Secure Lawn. If you want a company that is not getting sold, that is Secure Lawn. And what I mean by that is this. They've been here for over 20 years, celebrating having yard after yard of it being green and plush and lush. Like all the things that you want out of them is what Secure Lawn does, all right? They're family owned and operated and local. They've been servicing this area for over 20 years. They're punctual and they have a quick response time, all right? Everything that Secure Lawn uses is pet, kid, and environmentally friendly, too. So you don't have to worry about those dangerous chemicals hurting your family. That protects all types of grass, too. Service residential, commercial, and even the athletic fields for you coaches out there. So go ahead and get a start on your yard and call Secure Lawn at 615-893-8455 or go to securelawn.com.
RKW ramping up the show this morning on 104.5 The Zones. 615-737-1045. Buck Rising Show coming up next. I've hit a little bit of everything this morning. You can get Jim Nagy. You can get David Cobb on the podcast feed, wherever you get it. Here on the Zone Podcast Network. Quick show. Start the week.
Yeah.
Supposed to be beautiful today. You guys have any outdoor plans today?
Outdoor plans? We're officially baseball mode. I think we got our first intramural scrimmage today. Let's go.
That's crazy because I didn't think you ever got out of baseball mode.
I mean, well, no, not
Taking the dog for a walk. That's on my schedule.
Really? There it is. Got that, and just trying to get the week together, man, as it pertains to everything else. So no biggie on this end, though. Will
I might golf.
There you
I
go.
might golf. I'm going to go try to fix my driver, and depending on how well my driver gets fixed will determine whether or not I go play golf or forage in the woods for golf balls that I'm just spraying everywhere.
I feel like I need to go golf so I don't have to play catch with my kids no more, okay? All right, both of these jokers.
I feel like you're always hesitant when we say, you should go play some golf.
No, unless I might have to now to get out playing catch with them, okay? It's because yesterday I got lit up, and no particular reason other than the fact it was like, Dad, is it too hard for you to catch now? It's like, shut up.
Oh, my God.
Wow. Look at RJ out here throwing Dad under the bus.
You guys went shopping for those big britches he was wearing.
No, for real. I've officially transitioned from playing catch into with a regular baseball glove, outfielder's glove, to like a catcher's mitt because it's little things like that. I'm just like, and he did it out of spite yesterday too. I think they're doing like an intramural scrimmage or something like that today. And he was like, well, I'm supposed to pitch tomorrow. I was like, well, you don't have to throw to me like that, okay? The glove, the ball popping out of the mitt and everything. He was like, just 5 more, Dad. And I was just like, we're only doing 3. Make them perfect. Make them perfect, okay?
Did he do it?
He did make them perfect.
Look at that. Okay.
But screw baseball. That's how I feel at this point. My hand hurts.
How would you describe a father and son throwing baseball back and forth?
How would I describe it?
Like, what's that called?
It's supposed to be peaceful, okay?
No,
now it's called torture.
You're not falling in my trap.
It's called bonding.
I have a big issue with people that call it having a catch. Like, can we go have a catch?
No, I've never heard
play
of that.
catch.
It's catch. Yeah, you play catch.
You play catch,
What's
but
having a
have a
catch?
catch. Exactly.
Have a catch.
Who said that?
A lot of people say that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Those people need to be locked up then, if
That
that's
is
the case.
weird.
Exactly.
Yes.
Let's have a catch.
Austin Huff, who did that podcast for A to Z, the Titans podcast for so long.
Yeah.
A great Twitter follow. That's one of his pet peeves, people who say have a catch.
Have a catch.
That is really weird. I'm going to have to now listen a little closely.
No, let's go
A
play
little more
catch.
closer.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's go play catch. Hey,
You
Dad,
could do what my dad used to do. When he got tired of playing with me or when I would get lippy, we'd be throwing, and then he would just chuck the ball as far as he could.
Oh, no.
Like, all right, go get that. And then when I came back, he was gone.
I've done that. I ain't gonna lie to you.
That's a different game called fetch.
Yeah.
Exactly. Usually
Let's
play
have
with that
a
with your
fetch.
dog.
Hey, go find that ball.
It's been time.
Hey,
It's been
that's
time.
Zeus's game,
Yeah, no, Zeus don't even do that. He just looks at you just like, what are we doing?
What else to do with that?
He's retired from that.
He's too busy playing stepdad to the deer in the backyard. That's what he's doing these days.
Stepdad of the deer
I
in the
love
backyard.
it.
That's
They don't
crazy.
I love it.
They don't even move for him no more. He walks right past the deer.
He's
And
one
I'm
of
just
them.
thinking to myself, Zeus, you're supposed to be this big, mean Rottweiler. None of that matters to
I love
him.
it.
Kent makes a point on YouTube, says, Kevin Costner says, hey, Dad, want to have a catch at the end of Field of Dreams.
So we're
Oh,
doing
that is
Great movie, by the way,
awful.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah, it is, but that is not a good.
we're letting Hollywood determine how we say things these days. What does America come to? Absolutely
That's even
not.
an old movie.
Absolutely not. They're laughing at your dad make you play fetch in the chat, Bert.
Hey, what can I say, man? He also, he's a classic dad. One of those guys that would like throw you out of the boat so you learn how to swim. God, what did he? Oh, he used to. He also, if when you don't be scared of that ball. What are you so scared of?
That was a good one.
And
yeah.
make you stand out there as they bean you with wiffle balls and tennis balls. It's like it don't hurt. See, it does hurt, Dad.
Yes, it does.
You throwing hard as hell too, and it does hurt.
It
I
does
promise
hurt.
you.
I promise you.
Did you guys see Mike Vrabel's most recent hire in New England?
Heard of a few.
Which one?
Todd Downing will be the Patriots wide receivers coach.
Oh, get the band back. Get the band back, baby. That's what I'm talking about. You know he was coming for all
So
those people.
in New England, what that's going to be is the headline will be offensive coordinator of number 1 seed Titans, joins Patriot staff.
Yeah.
Little do they know what's coming.
I'm sorry. I mean, that is.
Look at Vrabel.
I mean, at least he's not the offensive coordinator.
Getting his people in place, man.
You knew he was going to bring back names.
Saying he was the coordinator of that Titans team is like me saying, star member of the 6th best mid-market morning show, according to Barrett. Like, yeah, I had a lot to do with it.
You are a star member.
It's something
what
like
are you
that.
talking about?
Yeah, I need to get on the picture. Put me on the picture then.
We should just be holding you in our arms.
It's okay.
Across.
I'm going to Photoshop it to make it look like I'm in the picture whenever we tweet it out.
Number 6 of the Barrett Sports Media mid-market morning show ranking this morning.
Nice
so
job.
thank you to Barrett.
Thanks, listeners and Barrett and all that.
Top
stuff.
10, baby.
Next year we aim back to getting back in the top 5.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to leave it alone.
Congrats to Mac and Cube, though, our friends down in Birmingham at Jocks for number 1. Well deserved. Third straight year, those guys crush it.
Yeah, we got to take them out. We'd be 5.
I mean, I can do the Tanya Harding thing if you need me to.
Okay.
Well, hey, we'll have bail money.
I need a SpongeBob drop. My leg!
That is your Monday morning, the Buck Rising Show, coming up next on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, and remember at all times, baby, your Twitter fingers and your mic always hot.